like 5 after.
Yeah.
Just so that we hopefully start around the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But yeah.
I forgot that I supported the Kickstarter because it was like 8 years ago. So, so I got the link for it. And
I didn't get a link. Hold on.
How much did you contribute? Because it was like for people who contributed $11 or more.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's why I was shocked that I got a goddamn link, because I was like,
I also have like a million emails, so
yeah. Well, I wasn't expecting, because I was like, oh, I'm sure I only donated like $5 or $10, and they sent the link over, and I was like, oh, I guess I donated more. So
wait a minute.
I'm lucky. I got the link through Vimeo. So
oh man, whatever. I'm just gonna watch on what's this thing called, Apple.
What's this thing called?
Yo, I know I donated.
Like I said, it was only because you know how like on Kickstarter go like if you get like a certain amount or give like a certain amount, you get like a reward. I think that might have been like one of the rewards for anybody who donated like over a certain amount. Yeah.
I know I definitely donated because they sent me updates throughout the years, and I was
like,
same. Like every like 3 years I'd get an update.
I know, it's like, go figure. The freaking
I know, like what? Oh wait, hold on. At whatever email address you used for Kickstarter. I don't remember, man. Okay, yeah, I did get that. Okay, so I got an update 4 hours ago. Okay, let's see. Now I'll go to all my Kickstarter emails that I probably just deleted.
That's hilarious.
When did you get the...
Like 2 or 3 days ago?
I don't remember. Whatever. I can't do that. Get me for another $4.99 right now.
Oh man, too funny. I know.
Whatever, it is what it is. All right, hey, what do you say, folks? We are about to watch Take the Ice. So this is going to be a live watch party, but also like a reaction video ? So you can see we're in our OG NWHL gear, which is so bittersweet. Like all the feels. I feel like you're gonna get all the feels tonight, and I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm gonna try really hard not to cry because I've got about $30 worth of makeup on my eyes right now. But you know, I can't make any promises.
But yeah, this is the Founding Forward podcast as part of Black Rosie Media. Hey, what's up? Thanks for saying hi. Yeah, we're doing some hockey stuff tonight, but thanks for stopping in RC Talks. If you want to watch along with us. Hey, Forrester. Yeah, we're getting ready to do this thing. Of course, I'm the one having tech issues because that's how life goes. I know. Hold on one second. I gotta like scan a thing and do a thing.
A thing does a thing.
A thing with a thing. I also am hunkered in my living room just because it's easier to lounge here. This is where I prefer to watch TV. So I wanted to be comfortable for this. But I'm coming in completely blind. I have not seen anything. I know that a few Riveters fans got to see it in New York City last summer and gave, some thoughts there. But I haven't seen anything. I haven't really paid much attention to anything happening on social media. So we are going to be watching Take the Ice, which is a documentary following the first season. Oh my God. Unable to complete this transaction at this time. What is happening? I'm ruining my own watch party. Like it worked earlier. I don't know what's happening.
did. Of course, it worked earlier. Now you're on the spot, and it's like,
yeah, exactly. Now it's like, actually, that's not what we're gonna do.
Oh, I also have my Isabel, my Lake Placid mug from
nice.
the N double season.
Oh boy, what a time!
I just realized.
Right. Let's see. I might have to switch my setup again and go into my uncomfy couch. I know. The things we do for WoHo.
SMH.
Yeah, exactly. Well, eventually we're going to be watching Take the Ice once, I don't know, like literally everything was working just a minute ago and now nada.
Nope.
Nada. Okay, Angelica, so I'm going to put myself on mute, but what do you know about Take the Ice?
Well, I've seen like some clips and stuff. You know, obviously it follows the first season of what was then called the NWHL. The founding four teams being the Buffalo Buttes, Boston Pride, Connecticut Whale, and then New York Riveters. I am seeing in the clips that I've seen some faces that I have not seen in NWHL or PHF jerseys in a very long time, because again, it is season 1. So yeah, I mean, it's been 8 years in the making. It's unfortunate that, as we know, the PHF is no longer. And you know, ironically, that's when the documentary comes out. But things happen for a reason. You know, I can't say anything. I've been working on certain articles for months and probably years at this point, so I can't say much. But it's it should be good. I mean, I've heard some good things. I've heard good things about the music, so I'm excited about that. And you know, it'll be nice to take a trip down memory lane. Obviously, I think that our feelings are all still kind of you know, raw from the announcements over the last month. It's actually been exactly 1 month today from when the PHF was bought out. And you know, there's always some interesting emotions when it comes to that. So it's yeah, it'll be interesting, you know, again, with it being year 1. I'm sure a lot of what is represented in this documentary probably will not be totally representative of what we saw in year 8, but it should still be a very interesting watch. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of really great things there. We see Greyhound popping in here. Thanks for joining us, and forgive my technical difficulties, but premiere was bittersweet in retrospect. Season 8 literally started the next day. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, again, I know some people have seen this upwards of a year ago. And it sounded pretty exciting. There were also, you know, we knew that one league was becoming a big topic of conversation. And I'll be honest, there's another little wrinkle in here for me. I know that Ian had that Q&A with Miles Arnon, who was a owner of the Boston Pride, and for another podcast, the Women's Hockey Spotlight on Locked On NHL. I read that article in preparation for something that we were doing over there. And listen, I think you have to take it with a grain of salt, given a few things.
The whole shaker's worth of salt.
You know, that being said, I do think there were also some points that were made there that have been points of conversation regarding the PWHPA for a number of years. And I think it's just interesting that we are still hearing some of that feedback all these years later. and now apparently, allegedly, reportedly, 5 months now out from a brand new league. So interesting. Oh, hey, Steph. I assumed it was someone from Rivs Nation, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, allegedly, there's not a lot going on with regard to the new league. I mean, it's been, as we mentioned, again, it's been exactly 30 days since the PHF was purchased, and we don't even have confirmation as to who's going to make up the leadership team. We did get note that it was potentially going to be Jana Hefford, Reagan Carey, Lisa Haley, and Mel Davidson, both of whom headed up the the senior vice president and director of hockey operations, respectively, for the PHF over last season. So that's the rumor. Nothing has been confirmed. We don't know where the teams are going to be. We don't know what the branding is going to look like. We don't know if the branding is going to be kept. My thought is that most, if not all, of the previous staff has been let go. So, I mean, a lot is up in the air with 5 months to go before puck drop. So I'm not trying to be a downer when I say this, but it's going to be really, really difficult, I think, for them to get all of this together. But I love that, Maddie. I absolutely love that. Sitting here with my volume all the way up at the Courage game, forgot my headphones. That is dedication.
It is. It's so this day, we picked this day because there were no WNBA games. And if I'm being honest, I completely forget that the Challenge Cup is separate from the NWHL. Why? I don't understand. But anyway, yeah. So
like I said,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just saying it's kind of symbolic, yeah. So
yeah. But also for those just joining, of course, my computer decided to act a little cray-cray right as we were to get started. So we're running a little bit late. But if you have questions for us regarding this documentary that we're about to watch for real, as soon as I get my life together, or anything else regarding women's hockey, now is the time. Listen, we are trying to get some people for Black Rosie Media up to a special celebration, Izzy Cup celebration with Carly Jackson. So I know some people in here, you've already purchased your tickets, but if you haven't done so, please go ahead and do that. We want to have CJ unveil the official poster that we will be selling. But for those who maybe don't follow CJ on social media, a little bit busy with the baseball, not the watching of the baseball, but the playing of the baseball. So we're going to, crushing it. Love that. But yeah, we really need your support there. So whether you want to buy tickets or just make a donation to Black Rosie Media, that's going to help get us to Nova Scotia. And the plan is that we're going to have at minimum 2 virtual interactions with CJ, and then we'll have some things that we're doing in real time. But we need your help to get there. So that's what we're doing. When I tell you, like, I literally no app right now is letting me cook. Like,
that is incredibly rude.
No one will let me be great. Like, I just want to watch Take the Ice, please. Thank you. Yeah, that's just, I don't know. That's a trailer. Continue.
Skylar asks, how did they pick who they were going to follow in the documentary? Like, was it just serendipitous that they followed Anya, who ended up doing so much for the league? Or do you think they followed lots and then edited, like, later on who they wanted to show? I think that's a good question. Honestly, I think Anya is just one of those people that even during her playing days, she was very, very active in promoting the league and in communicating with media and being open to that. I distinctly remember her participating in broadcasts for then NWHL games, even as a practice player with the Connecticut Whale. So I think it's just a matter of her just being open to it and understanding that this was a good opportunity to showcase the league. I wouldn't be surprised if they followed multiple people. but yeah, I mean, I think that Anya again is just one of those people, you know.
Ooh, this is
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
So much time spent on that. Yeah, I'm curious to
That
see
Duggan,
what they say about it.
I'm just mad that Duggan went down that easy, to be honest with you. I think there was some bad blood there. But yeah, she's very open and personable, even as a practice player. Yeah, she was very open and personable, even as a practice player. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think she's kind of like a natural salesperson. So she knows how to market and she knows how to present herself and present the league. And I think that also played into how good she was as executive director of the Players Association, for sure.
Wow, they're really like making me go through all kinds of things right now.
Unreal.
I'm so like the amount of care that I took to make sure my video was ready, and apparently, you know what happened is that I did all of this on a different account. So now it's
I'm just happy that, you know, I'm not the one having the issues this time.
No, it
I
is not
usually
you.
am.
It is me. Tis me. Tis me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Now it's saying like I'm in the wrong account. Like I'm just like, let me live. Just let me live.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the bad blood was there, but yeah, I mean, I don't wanna speculate, but just definitely seemed like it for sure. But let's see what other. I think the director is open to answering questions too. If you reach out, I vaguely remember the storyline question was asked at the premiere, but I forget the answer. Yeah. I know that the Ice Garden was looking at getting a Q&A done with the director, so I don't know if that's something they're still working on. I can definitely check. Because I would love to get a little bit more insights as to that. And I think Skylar asked Erica, "Are you still? Oh, or is it me? Am I still dog sitting? No, I'm not still dog sitting. I am back home in my little apartment in Buffalo, and I am sans dogs, unfortunately. So yes, they were so sweet. Those two little ones, they were cute.
Oh, I am not dog sitting either. Just to close that loop, just to close the loop. But sometimes I am.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm cooking with gas. Yes. Okay, are we ready?
You ready? Yes.
And by we, I mean me. 3.
Oh, 2.
Okay, you go. You count. Okay,
all right.
start from 3. All right.
3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Freestyle digital media. Awesome. You go.
You go, Gun Coco.
You go, Glen Coco. Oh, I should probably turn up the volume now.
Sounds like a skate sharpener. Yep. Look at me go.
You nailed it. Okay. These are our live thoughts. I know that guy. Oh my God, Chad Wiseman.
Oh my God.
Look at all those pucks.
Oh.
Do I still have one of those? I think back in New York. I was in this line. I was in that line somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, look at these guys. Brass Bonanza. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. Wow. This is such a throwback. I might cry.
Oh, don't cry. I've never seen you cry before, and I'm usually the emotional one of the two of us, so.
It's not fun. I Anya! Wait. Why did I agree to do this live
2015. Wow.
Aw, Chelsea Layden.
Just seeing the looks on their faces.
I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna absolutely lose it. Even if the sport evolved into a multi. Oh yeah, I was too late. Riveters, let's go! Oh my God,
Lando with long hair.
Oh my
Look
God!
at Mad Pack.
Packer.
Unstretched.
Gabby! Oh my gosh! No, Doyle. I'm actually wearing Fritzy's jersey right now.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm Damn. Oh, I never forget Lando started on the ribs. You want to talk about like Lando when she got off the bench for that fight with the whale? I was like, oh yeah,
my God, old school beach jerseys.
I'm gonna be her friend. Oh, those beach jerseys were sick. Oh, Fratty.
Fratty.
This is gonna end me. I'm gonna be unwell for like oh Jesus. Why did I do this to myself? Oh gosh. Oh gosh. This was a really important year for me and my sister in a lot of ways. This is right before our dad died. And this is what we would do, you know, to get away from the heaviness of that, of him being very sick. But all right, little babies. Where is that? Chelsea Piers? Probably.
Might be. Yeah.
Buffalo Buttes versus the CT Whale. Angela Ruggiero. Hillary Knight. All dolled up.
God, I remember this. I was not there, but I remember the announcement. Yeah, Chelsea Piers. Danny Ryland.
All of those happened. Wow. Danny Ryland. I always thought Danny was a great dresser.
So before every hockey game growing up, my dad used to say, "Have fun and knock somebody over." But tonight he just said, "Smile." So you guys are all safe. I always thought I was going to be a professional hockey player in the NHL growing up. Then obviously the dream changes to wanting to play in the Olympics, and then it's a little more realistic.
I was the only girl within 100 miles of Tampa that knew I was skating. There were a handful of other girls in Florida, so whenever we'd see each other, it'd be like, oh,
I don't think it ever really left. I think the Ribs just had a rivalry with everyone because we were the blue collar team.
The Ribs versus, really Madison Packer versus everybody.
No, people were nasty. That's why. People shitted on the Ribs, like big time.
I mean, to be fair, I think that people kind of looked at them as like, because the headquarters was in New York and Danny was involved with the Riveters specifically, I think that might have had something to do with it, just from what I've heard from players who've been there from early days.
So they're petty. I get it.
Girl, stop being a homer for 2 seconds.
I mean, that. How else would you describe that? That didn't have nothing to do with the team on the ice. That's on them.
To take the next step and pursue a professional hockey career. I can't say thank you enough for all the support from within the hockey family, and all of you are here tonight.
Aviator was amazing. Like,
I miss Aviator.
nothing like it. Nothing like it.
I remember doing like lacrosse practices at Aviator when I was training for the Empire State Games and thinking that it would be such a cool place to have a hockey team.
It was a lot of fun. That was like my first real hockey experience. I mean, because I didn't watch the NHL before 2015.
Look at Linda.
Wow. Throwback.
Linda Groff, first ever GM of the Buffalo Beauts.
Molly Engstrom.
Oh
my
Shannon.
gosh, Doyle.
There were not a lot of girls playing when I started. I was always the only girl on my team, on the teams that I played against.
Bratty.
A hard time being a girl. Parents would say,
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
I have to be at home like
Brickner!
Wow.
Oh. Dang, she got so many gnarly injuries towards the end, Jordan Brickner. Gosh. Blake! Was that Hillary and geez, what's her name? I can't remember her name right now.
On the program, and I think that definitely motivated me to be better. And of course, now seeing where girls hockey has come, it's incredible. The women's game has evolved so much, even in the last decade. If you look back at the 2014 Olympics, the women's gold medal game is actually the most watched event on NBC.
My sister was watching this game.
Gold medal game, and they didn't tune in.
I remember getting updates for this game. I was in the middle of PR class, and I had to leave my public relations class to follow along on Twitter when overtime hit. I remember that. I was pacing in the halls outside my classroom. My professor probably thought I was crazy.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn!
Touchable idea.
Franklin and Noble. Is that downtown?
This is how it is.
What?
And I think Danny did a great job of sort of gathering her truth.
I don't know.
That we're doing it.
I think it's downtown Brooklyn.
Quinnipiac. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Kim Sass.
And then Angela's in here as well.
Hey guys, I just want to say good luck today. It's so cool that you get to do this. It's definitely a story day. And you guys
I love seeing Angela early on because I don't think we saw much of her throughout the years.
Right.
Bobby J. Oh my God, it's Nana. Babs.
Bad.
Oh my gosh, Beth Hanrahan.
Should we just go through and say like our notes?
Yeah, right. That's so wild.
Right.
Like, she's pretty involved.
Yeah, I remember in the early days. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, seriously. I would kill for a season 1 tell all about the Wales management and coaches. That's the next one we deserve. We deserve a lot of content from this league. Oh. I think it's a very interesting.
To me, hockey has just been about expressing myself.
I don't know. I'll talk later.
It was being angry when I wanted to be angry. It was helping me when I was going through some stuff. And it gave me an escape to say, I'm going to go to the gym where I can go on the ice and I can kind of let the
Oh my God, baby Anya.
and think about the game.
Oh dear, season 4 Rivs. Everything after season 3 for the Rivs has been a nightmare.
Lake Placid. Can we talk about that?
I said everything after season 3. All of the things.
I'm using that as an example.
Literally everything has been a nightmare.
They go, "Oh, are you going out to dinner for your birthday?" I was like, "No, I have practice." And he goes, "Skip it." I was like, "Oh, okay." No, skipping practice is nonsense. I didn't have a conventional route. I went through college for 2 years, and I got let go of my college hockey team. But I worked really hard, and I got a lot better. I'm a comeback kid.
Oh man, I remember those days. Is this the bus that was 2 hours late for the Riveters game? Blake!
Brittany out.
Dempsey! Oh my god, Jillian Dempsey deserves so much better.
Oh God, yes.
Today is the very first NWHL game. Are you the lead on camera talent? No, I'm a commissioner of the league. You're kidding me. No, I'm looking at your name as camera talent. Thank you.
LOL at on camera talent. There was no on camera talent. Oh, that was Mrs. Packer.
People waiting to get in, just seeing the players walking in, you know, whispering to me, "Thank you." Like,
Timestamp is about 13:30. Hayden.
Oh, good catch. Was that just Cheyenne? I think. Shy Dark was with the Connecticut Whale.
And then she jumped over to the Buttes. And then Toronto 6.
You know, I guess the state was just disbelief. You know, this isn't me, this isn't my life, this isn't what's happening, but it is. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty humble right now. It's crazy.
I think with
nervous, but
maybe season, I don't know. The Ribs have always been an interesting team. There's always been a lot of shit going on. Bartleman! Woo! There's always been a lot of crap going on with the Riveters, and somehow, I don't know. It's just always been a lot of shit with the Ribs. Wow. Oh my God, Kate Samini.
Oh my God, yes! I just noticed her behind Danny.
Kate Samini.
Oh, yes.
I'm pretty sure that's Ryan Equali back there. Now, he would be a coach later. Ryan Equali, I think, is there too. He was a coach for the Whale. Oh, Celeste. Wow. Kira! I almost wore my Akira jersey since that's the last one I ever bought. But I went with the first one. Oh, yeah.
I forgot Dempsey at one point wore 3.
Strange.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there was a Sox game on, it was on Nessid. Now we're on Nessid. The media's picking up on it. And we have people calling people from all across the country.
Oh my gosh, Dimitri.
Oh.
Decided to announce a multi-year deal.
Tax.
Was the official coffee of the National Women's Hockey.
Oh, Duncan. Oh my gosh. Haley Stark. Wow. Alyssa Gallardi.
Yes!
Not Gagliardi, people. Gallardi.
Gallardi. Alyssa Gallardi.
Koizumi. Sam Faber.
Look at Kate.
The atmosphere is just amazing. It's one of those
So interesting. Aw.
At the time I heard about the NWHL, I think I got a text message from somebody, hey, you're going to play in the league? And
I love how the like all the kitchen gear is in a bowl that says dog treats.
Absolutely not, you know. I had moved on with my life. I went through my career with the national team and everything.
So many names, you know, that's my
Oh, same with Rachel Honest, remember?
yeah, there's so many names that have been mispronounced over the years.
And I was on that for about 8 years.
Molly Engstrom. She's coaching I forget where she's at now. She's in Minnesota and now she's I think back on the East Coast somewhere. Yeah, the NWHL product was very particular. I don't know. It's like you had to be there, I kind of feel.
Yeah, you did. It's hard to put in the world. Hard to put into words.
Yeah. Yes. I thought it was Maine. I just couldn't remember if that was accurate.
So it had been 2 years and it was a good breath of fresh air to get away from everything. And then I got a call from the NWHL. I was like, no, this is a step back. And he said, yeah, you know what? You can think about it like that, but you can also think about it as this is an opportunity that's been put in front of you.
Interesting.
On your own terms.
Interesting how she said it was a step back. Like, I get it, but I just think it's such an interesting take.
I like how you say interesting. I have a different word in mind, but
I mean, think of where she's coming from. She's right. If you're not on the Olympic team, everything is a step back. There was nothing. At
that time, yeah, I guess.
Buffalo Buttes, their defense, could show play. The New York Riders are kind of considered the grinder of the league.
Who's talking?
Built to just fight.
No idea.
I was there. I bruised my sternum banging on the glass. Who is this talking?
No idea.
Oh my God, that's me. And my sister.
Oh,
Was that Samini? Kate Samini? Interesting.
oh.
First of all, she's a superstar. If every night was an inch, she'd be making $7 million a year.
The prize strengths are just in their depth. Line number one's not clicking. Okay, go two. Two doesn't click. Three's clicking.
Boston Pride has 8 national team players on its roster. Every other team is lucky to have, 2. They've got Brianna Decker.
Alyssa Gagliardi.
Oh my gosh.
Rachel
Alyssa who?
And I could go on the list, Blake.
Yes, Bolden. Respect. Woo!
Nope.
Blake!
Yes, Blake. I remember one time I called Blake for a phone interview and she was like mid-workout. I was like, oh, no. You call me when you're done.
That's hilarious.
Buffalo Harbor Center.
Coming in first is definitely something that everybody expected of us. Yeah, I would do. Oh, wait. Thank you. Bobby always said in practice.
Odd.
We're expected.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, the player, not the official.
Boston wins everything. They win it handily. They move strong through September. They move strong through October. And November hits, and they suddenly just drop 3 in a row. The first two of which are to the New York Raiders.
Okay, first of all, like, how is no one talking about the Connecticut Whale and their streak? But okay.
Right?
I loved that game. I remember that game.
Man, these names.
Rachel!
We're a crowd that's not used to losing.
The melodrama.
But one of the consistent complaints coming out of that locker room was that a lot of players were never getting ice time.
It was a little different for me. I've never really been in the role that I was put in.
Feel that.
I came from Boston College and I was a captain and played all the time. I mean, this year I was third line grind where, I was actually even on the bubble of whether I was playing every game or not. It wasn't necessarily because I wasn't playing well, we just had so much talent.
You gotta figure out how the team comes together. And, everyone's jockeying for their role.
It's unique to have, I think we had 8 national team players and 10 that weren't. So, mending them together and getting them to gel is difficult.
Team chemistry,
Smelker.
I'd say, is a little bit shaky.
I'm fucking pissed. We get some more.
We're really, really lucky to be able to have this league. How do I look?
Oh, yeah, they were stacked.
Pretty good, huh? 5:45.
Jordan Smelker.
She's the hardest part is having to juggle 2 jobs at once.
With the NWHL,
Shelly Looney.
they're able to.
Shelly Looney.
They're not salary based where you can live off of.
I got a good little nap in, but
Gadman.
definitely going to be a long Monday for both me and my 4 students.
Gigi's like, all right, stop talking to the camera so I can get off the bus.
Also teach freshman biology.
Oof. Stretch.
Stretch.
That's Dr. Stretch. Dr.
Yes.
Stretch.
Yep. Starting med school next week.
The biggest struggle is going to work and not sitting at my desk.
Oh.
Meanwhile, NHLers haven't touched a book in 15 years.
I was a student, but now I have so much work.
Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying that. Excuse me.
That's another thing I think is unclear with this league because, like, not all of those are. Some people are still gonna have to work. I'll put it that way.
What timestamp are we at? Because my page just crashed.
Oh, I'm at 25:12.
Okay.
You want me to pause it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, hold on. At 25:21.
25:21. Okay, hang on.
25:21, everyone. Anya's doing deadlifts.
Okay, there. Ready?
1, 2, click.
Got it. Damn. Go ahead, girl.
Coming back to prepare last week, I didn't have the Ridge practice week, so it wasn't my moment on Sunday, but just got me a little bit more motivated for the next week.
I've known Anya for about 5 or 6 years now. Love her to death. She's best friend. She's just a really
Freddy's!
Kayla's one of the loudmouths. She's our assistant captain. She's not only a good friend to have, she's a huge asset to our team off the ice.
This is Miles. Miles, say hi.
Even if Anya doesn't play many minutes, she does bring a spark to our team. A lot of energy.
Koizumi.
10 minutes to a W. Will on 3. 1, 2, 3. Will.
When I don't play, it's just how can I make the team better without actually being on the ice? Why are you fucking rushing? No, you gotta be pumped. You're looking a little glum, but be fired up because you're my door.
Hilarious having to pump Kelly Babstock up.
Right?
You can tell it was a bad day.
It's all about having that positive attitude. All right, Hans. You ready to speak up? You want to speak up? You're in.
Suit up.
You're in.
Woo.
Oh man.
I think she would be an interesting coach to have on a team.
APAC? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is that her name? Because I just have been seeing Bottolino for so long, and this
I
was like,
know.
oh, it's her name these days.
I got hit in Buffalo, so I've been out injured for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, I remember that. Oops, sorry, Anya.
Yeah.
And then my feet came up over my head.
Oh, yeah.
Towards my spinal column. Okay. Hanging in there. Better.
Molly Engstrom.
More mobility. Oh, that sharp pain.
Sharp pain up high or sharp pain
Up high. Oh. Like right here. I just felt like a hot, like sharp pain.
I'm sure.
I work so hard to get here and I do so much, and one awkward fall really kind of gets me in this position. As I come back, we'll be later into season, we'll have more people establishing their roles. It is scary, I do think maybe, we'll have someone stand out or we'll have someone fill my role really well. But, I'm confident that just working hard and kind of putting my head down, I think that'll pay dividends for me.
I wonder how much they got versus the story they told, because I feel like retrospectively, I would love to just have all of this raw.
Right?
There's like a million different documentaries you can make.
Oh,
or even if,
sure.
I mean, it came out 8 years later. I guess I don't know the answer because I haven't seen this, but like, do they bring us up to speed? I guess
I don't know.
up through last year or season
I haven't
7.
heard anything. Yeah, I haven't heard anything. But
I mean,
knows?
I just feel like at that point, I get what you're doing, but like, how do you tell this story and put it out all these years later without giving an update?
Right.
I got out for 20-minute warm-up, and I got off the ice, and I said, "You're actually expecting to play 3 20-minute periods?"
I mean, but again, they had this footage and they had it after season 1. Literally the next fall, even if you only followed Molly Engstrom or Anya Bottolino, which apparently this is doing, those two storylines drastically change in season 2, and I just don't know that they're reflected in this. I'm saying that literally. I don't know because I'm watching it for the first time, but from what I haven't heard anyone talk about that, so I just feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, same. I haven't heard anything about it either, so I don't know.
I hope not.
Jesus.
At the end of the day,
Almost want to rewind that. Did her mom?
We were talking with our coach last night, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. What's that?
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
According to Danny, the league is gonna go to place. It's gonna happen next year, and things are going along swimmingly.
What makes it mind-boggling to me, all the years that she was on the national team, everything's planned for you, and then all of a sudden, it's figuring out all this stuff on your own. I don't know. My head is spinning about all of it.
This is so interesting.
It's sustainable.
Mm.
There's that word.
Thank you. Where's Palps? There she is. The salary cap for each team is $270,000. The average salary is $15,000 per player. One of the biggest misconceptions this year is that the women aren't getting paid enough, or they're not getting paid as much as the men, where, you know, of course they're not making millions of dollars yet, but the way that we're growing, and if we had 30 teams in the same business,
Yeah, there's so much that could be done. Kareen!
all how you look at it.
There's like,
That made any sense. But everyone always comments on how they're not, making any money. Operating an actual league takes a lot of money. We have setup, we have breakdown, we have merchandise, box office. I mean, you name it, we have to make sure it gets done. Oh wait, sorry, did you guys hear the Greenwich Panthers and the Greenwich Skating Club kids? We have such a lean staff and everyone's wearing so many hats. There's a ton of pressure on me and the league to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch.
The NWHL in and of itself is a perfectly legitimate league, but without attention from, I don't know how to put this, without attention from a male-driven league,
boo!
The leagues that have a crazy amount of money right now, the NWHL is going to be in a difficult situation.
This is Wednesday night.
Am I watching a commercial?
Where the stars come out to play.
I was like, what is this? Is this a commercial break? I did not sign up for the boys. I know. I reacted strongly to that. Like, get the F out of here. Oh.
But again, that question is very pertinent to what's going on now.
I mean, it is, but also, is it because the question has been answered for years? They don't give a, they don't care. They're not, it's not. No.
We know this. We know this. And by we, I mean Rachel. Yeah. Oh, I forgot this was the conversation back then.
I mean, I have, nope, not
so
going
many
there.
thoughts. Listen, I've written 2 columns on this. Y'all already know how I feel. And if you don't, read my columns at the Ice Garden. Is that freaking Patrick Burke?
Why is he drinking a Diet Pepsi on this?
Yeah, shit. Kate Samini does live in Florida now. Yeah, Kate Samini was there definitely in the first year, and I think part of the second year. I'm just talking over Patrick because I don't really care what he says. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm wearing one of their jerseys right now. Yeah, what a mess. There was so much. Kate Samini. Oh. Yeah, Kate Samini. The encouragement of key staff in the NHL 2 leagues began conversations about possible partnership.
Remember this, and when I asked
to help strategize.
When I asked Patrick about it, even in the conversation surrounding the outdoor game, he made it sound like a cat fight, and I've never trusted that man since.
this year, planning for next year, and kind of just how you can help out in all hands on deck
Not at all.
situation with or without the NHL's involvement.
Without.
Say that what's being pulled off so far is amazing, but we need to dramatically increase our numbers.
So I guess the
Yeah,
biggest thing is failing the list of
Oh, Steve Spillin.
presents.
Yeah.
To the league.
No, it was more so the two sides, NWHL and CWHL, not agreeing on anything, and supposedly that was why the quality of the game was that low, which I have opinions.
Conversation with them now.
I wish I could find that email because I know we talked about it over the course of like an entire weekend.
Important thing is getting the most eyeballs on us in the next month. That's
I'm gonna look in my archive and see if I still have it. Yeah, see?
take a look at the warm up, take it all and enjoy it. We're gonna start.
Legion of fans. Oh dear God. Dina Lang. Jesus. Said her name wrong. I guess I don't have any footage.
Oh, Madison. He was
I
the
don't
co-founder of You Can Play.
Denna. She's in law school now, right? Or about to start?
I'm not sure.
I think I saw that. Aw. Yeah, she announced that maybe like a month or so ago.
My name is Denna. People call me Dina. Which I don't really understand. It's D-E-N, N-A. Like Jenna. With a D. That's how I usually say it. I can't remember quite a point that I fell in love with hockey, because I can't remember a point that I didn't love hockey. I started playing hockey around 7 years old.
I think I hate to say adversarial relationship, but like the presence of an antagonistic force, so to speak, always kind of created a shift, right? With the C-dub, it was the N-dub. With the N-dub becoming the PHF, and then with the PWHPA, without the PW, would we have gotten anywhere in terms of upping the quality of the PHF? You can make that argument.
So when that final decision came down that we were going to actually be playing the Winter Classic, there's just a whole new level of excitement. I remember playing a couple shifts and not playing, my best. So I really kept telling myself that I had to pick it up next shift. And my last shift, I think I definitely picked it up, but I was racing really quickly, which was always one of my
Good luck with that. Jesus. I can't. I honestly can't even.
I was definitely putting all my effort in. Gonna get it.
Yeah. You and me both, Hayden. Still just waiting for a lot. I mean, I guess the one thing I'll say about rewatching this is that women's hockey has definitely survived a lot worse. And it's just really unfortunate to feel like there's kind of another hurdle. Well, it's getting heavy. They're talking about Denna.
You know, she's been there for me personally, but for everyone. So it sucks. I mean, you don't want to tap into anyone, but you really don't want to tap into her.
Wait, so what do you have to do in terms of rehabbing your hip?
So they can't do much until the tear is healed. Because it's just like pulling at a tear.
So it just healed itself.
Yeah. And then like today he did active release on my hip with mobility stuff just to get it moving. It's all so tight.
Yeah, they were talking about Denna Lang.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was like telling coach, I was like, give me anything to do, like give me a job, like logistics or doing something. He was like, no, like just watch the game. I was like, I can't.
Look at the pumpkin. It's a Connecticut whale. That's so cute.
It's really cute.
Oh my gosh. They're like babies.
We have enough players regardless. It'll be fun. Our other people just rest now because regular season isn't kind of everything, as opposed to having them hurt at the end of the year.
The whale pumpkin was so cute. Anya's cleared to play. Let's go.
Did she?
She did play some down the stretch. They're in. Yeah, they're in Boston.
Yeah.
Now that's Connecticut.
I found out on Saturday morning. Coach shot out the email. My name wasn't on there, and it's a bitter pill. You kind of have to get over it. I try not to count myself out or discredit anything I do. Every game, players play differently.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
But at the same time, it's that frustrating moment where you're like,
I mean,
that's 7 years.
And then also, she never, first of all, she played when there were practice players, and I'm pretty sure she's been a practice player.
Yeah.
But she made the roster a little bit more in the later years, but the Connecticut team was very different.
Not again.
At Stadium a couple weeks ago. However, an unfortunate moment in that game as Denna Lang suffered an injury, and we're here with the commissioner of the NWHL.
They literally just put a sheet up.
Yes, we did announce on Friday that Denna did suffer a severe spinal injury, and the hockey community.
What minute mark are you at?
Yeah, that's right. She took over. I'm at 45:22.
Okay, so I have to go one more minute. All right.
Denna's in the hospital room, and Kelly Cook is visiting.
We were in local. Oh. Mm-hmm. Last time it made it go really fast. Oh. So it's like running. Really? Oh. But going faster. It was.
Yeah, it was weird because they never really announced it, and then they kind of quietly went back to it. It's very strange, but you know, communication.
Isn't that cute? It's very soft.
Top Gun member.
We haven't stopped thinking about it. What that was going to mean for her life. None of us are trained. I think we're tired. Because it takes a lot out of you.
Buffalo snaps a 4-game losing streak and gets win number 2.
I think we're going to think that's a little bit of a heartbreaker. It's so tough for a team. So emotional every game. With everything that happens, obviously with an accident like that, it's really easy for
Bredex.
to fall apart.
Blake.
This book, I scored the tying goal.
Yeah, you did.
This book. It was actually the coolest goal I think I've ever scored in my life. It was just. Playing with fear is something you definitely wouldn't want to do.
I love there's like a shot of every player cooking. Why?
What do? You play, you eat.
To be okay. And she and I are pretty close. I mean, she's close to everybody on our team. She's just so loving and kind. I sprained my wrist pretty badly, and weeks and days after, she was checking in on me, asking me if I needed anything. Just being like, "Oh, how are you feeling today?"
Oh my gosh, they look so young.
Yeah.
Not like any of them are like even 30 yet, but well, like not my 30.
Oh no, they're more my 30.
GG.
Player on our bench, and we're all emotional about it, so we're kind of wounded. But it almost makes us stronger because we want to fight for her every day we step on the ice. It doesn't necessarily have to be vocalized. It's just a feeling that we all share.
I like the perspective. Like she has this life-changing accident, and she didn't regret it. She loved every second of playing hockey. And so I think all of us kind of took it as like, this is our duty, this is our mission. Like, we're not going to do it for ourselves. We're going to do it for them. They're definitely strong enough in terms of talent. The couple games that we lost, maybe we just hadn't found our chemistry. But I think that we found it.
I was at this game, I'm pretty sure. Oh my gosh.
We were just looking at just thinking to myself, wow, we're awesome. This is so fun.
Yay, the victory press. Corrine Bowie.
We're excited for that.
Sorry.
To be there too. Definitely emotional for me. The best part about hockey is just having all those best friends and getting to step on the ice and go to battle.
Demps.
And she was as much a part of this journey as any of us. And if she can't come to the locker room, then we're going to bring the locker room to her.
He makes Dental bracelets, Dental posters.
We all wear Dental t-shirts. We have this 24 sign that we've been hanging on our bench. Each goal they scored, they actually would bring me every single time.
Jeez.
Every game we did it for her, and the strength that she showed us.
That's so cute.
Cute.
They say I'm strong.
I'm healthy to be strong as well.
First place in the National Women's Hockey League.
Cheers to that, guys. We've been brave and pulled together. Excited to spend this night with you guys. So nice, I can't remember.
Whoa. All right, Dex. Back to Molly Engstrom.
I had the first ever NWHL suspension.
I didn't realize it was the first one.
It's part of the game.
Part of the game.
Everybody, welcome to the Chelsea Bears here in Stamford, Connecticut.
Our rivalry with the Buffalo team was apparent throughout the season.
Connecticut, every time they met up with Buffalo, they beat them, and they beat them handily. But then tonight, Buffalo starts to beat them.
So left side for Zach. Centers it left. Look at his shot. He scores. It is Megan Duggan, who did not play yesterday.
Megan Duggan scores.
Oh my God, Bailey Brown. What a name.
They're being exchanged, but I'm outside the glass, can't hear it.
So there was some scrums and some things happening sort of behind the play. Things escalated. I had enough personally. I'm not that kind of a player at all. But I think for anybody that does know me, there's sort of a threshold. This particular player
She's on the coaching staff to
cross that line.
Does definitely make you look terrible. I mean, yeah, I remember this. Oh God, I was so mad.
Just out. Jeez.
Yep. I remember watching this and being so mad.
My hit was a very special hit, because there's a history there. She had concussions.
What is with this grainy photo?
Also, there's the whole national team aspect to it. This is the captain of the national team. To me, she's a hockey player who's being an asshole on the ice. Not only just with me, but with my teammates. It was just reaction, the adrenaline's going, and I knocked her out,
Bro.
Not being Molly Engstrom, I don't know how much.
Why are you so proud of that?
From the national team and Duggan being the captain of the national team kind of play in. But I imagine it was not a minor factor. It's brutal. And I'm sure it wreaks havoc with people emotionally and mentally when they spend so much time physically and emotionally preparing for this, training for this, and watching it and studying it, and then just have it disappear. Molly Engstrom is, maybe the 24th best player in the United States, and there's 23 spots on the national team. 23 of the best players in the U.S. get to keep playing women's hockey after college, and everybody else is retired. What are you gonna do?
Interesting. Aviator. God, I
Yeah.
spent time at that place. Lando!
Oh, Lando.
Fritzy! Nana!
Oh, Nana.
Oh, that's probably me right there. I'm pretty sure that was my jacket. I was gonna say, is that Tuck?
It'll be one of our most crowded games, I would say. Yeah, so the capacity is 1,500 and we'll be around 1,000, so I'm not worried about selling out. So, and I get an alert if we have 100 left. So, I'm not worried. No, we're not going to sell out. I'm not worried about selling out.
Oh, the Sun game.
Their coaches?
Aha. Brooke Ammerman. Aw, Kira.
I miss the flags on the shoulders.
Yep.
I was driving every weekend to Connecticut and to Boston.
The only?
And it
What?
became very, very clear that not a lot of people knew.
Y'all heard that, right?
I didn't hear what she said. What did she say?
I think she said something about being the only reporter covering the NWHL.
Her first home games being sold out, so it was pretty exciting. I really don't know what happened.
There is not a soul in this joint right now. Honestly, there's nobody here.
Women's sports have struggled in terms of finding continued enthusiasm.
Aviator was always packed.
And it's partially media coverage. Media has not made the room in their agenda for women's sports.
Shout out to more than 5% podcast.
Put large sums of money into women's sports.
This, I imagine, has to be one. Danny Ryland wants sponsorship from the NHL. But in order to get their sponsorship dollars, Ryland wants, hopefully, to draw some more fans.
All right. So Ethan is coming in later, and he's working on a list of non-hockey youth groups to try to do some group ticket sales. Playoff tickets.
That's Jenny Scriven's sister.
That is going to appear on NBCSN. I would use the opportunity if you could push tickets for the playoffs.
Yeah, that doesn't ever need to be a thing for men.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes here, you have to spend money to make money. Nobody ever seems to want to spend money on women's sports.
Playoffs, I don't think you want to take chances.
I kind of missed that conversation. I'm gonna have to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching this like one more time over.
I know.
That's my mom helping me try on my gear for the first time. I'm flexing there, feeling empowered. I started skating when I was 5. I don't really remember the very first time I stepped on the ice, but the story that my parents would tell is that I went to the rink with my 2 brothers, and they gave my brothers ice skates, and then they asked me what size figure skates I wanted, and I was insulted by the assumption that they thought I would want. This little girl wanted to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning. She thought she was going to be standing next to Rudy Pochak on the blue line, playing defense in front of Manon Realm, and that wasn't a realistic dream.
Yeah, I purchased it as well.
There's still a lot of work to do. By no means am I content with where we are right now. These all just, I mean, this is who I am. This is
Did that money ever materialize?
I don't know.
Bobby Nystrom.
The NHL has the Stanley Cup. The NWHL very aptly named its cup the Isabel Cup after Lady Isabel, Lord Stanley's daughter. She's ostensibly one of the first women to play ice hockey, apparently introduced her father to the sport.
Yes, follow the 50K from the NHL.
She's in a white dress, no helmet.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
I remember that. Yeah.
All 4 NWHL teams make the Isabel Cup playoffs. In the first round, the
Cherie
face off against the last place Riveters in a best-of-3 series.
I'm glad we gave them everything back to them. Really proud of what Rivers hockey is for the future. Oh, stretch.
So this was the first hockey series I ever covered as a media member. Oh, that's right. There was a baby Anya. Yeah, it wasn't great.
And you're in, and I was so pumped. I was like shooting, I was fired up, skating around. So, I sent a couple texts out to my parents. They were like, "We're getting in the car now." Feeling really strong, confident in my game. I'm just excited to get going.
We're going to go as fast as we possibly can. I think we have a good chance for success for tonight.
Heather Lindstead. They had so many coaches. Who even knows?
Yep.
Wrestling.
Free. I'm not going to say anything.
Megan Huertas. That's Matt Falkenberry.
Yep. Matt.
Bozak.
Harrison Brown.
Kelly Babs.
I got an email.
Damn.
I'm not playing today. I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready for the game. And it's just like, guess not. I have to show up to the rink. I've got my smile on. I try to rev up the team as much as I can, and I just have to sit back and trust that the best team is on the ice. Our first game against Buffalo couldn't have gone better.
Hilarious.
Right.
Didn't she have like a photo shoot she did early on? Oh, there goes Pat.
Also, it was because they didn't keep it's because they didn't keep Anya in that they lost the series. Dang, didn't want to show game 3 there, huh?
Paige Harrington. Wow.
It's heartbreaking.
No. I think she was a practice goalie, right? For Buffalo.
No, she was signed. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure. You're wrong, but I remember her being signed.
I was wearing a professional hockey jersey with my last name on it. It was me on the ice. Now I was getting to play. But I don't know if this is going to be something that I can keep doing, because as much as I love the sport, it's so heartbreaking every time I don't play. And I'm trying to figure out, is that something I want to keep doing? Guys, we should all be really proud.
Kelly Stack. Wow.
Women's hockey and made it better.
Cheyenne.
I feel like it because we lost, and that's really hard. The little girls and boys that now look at women's hockey and think about the Connecticut Whale or the NWHL, and that's something that each one of us should be proud of. We had a great season, and I'm really happy that I was able to be a part of it.
I was at a different point in their lives, but I didn't think I was going to be playing again ever. So this was really special for me, and I just want to say thanks for. I mean, I know I couldn't be here a lot, but I loved coming here every day. I'm not feeling disappointed. I've lost a lot of hockey games, and you start to realize it really truly is about the journey. It's not about the gold medals. Everybody wants to win a gold medal. Everybody wants to be an Olympian, and only a certain, very small percentage of people get to do that and experience that. All you can do is ask the most out of yourself, train as hard as you can, and then sometimes it's about the hockey gods. It's about the way the puck drops. So I'm not disappointed with anything. Just excited about this next
I honestly can't remember what season Sass came in.
Yeah, no, she was there at the first season, but I just remember like it was Bree, obviously for the majority of it, but then Levier I think was drafted the year after that. I think that was Levier's rookie season, was season 2.
That might be right.
Yeah, because that was when the Beats won their cup. She was.
Newark, New Jersey, welcome to the NWHL Isabel Cup Finals. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Giubileo, and tonight it's Game 1 of the Isabel Cup between the Boston Pride and the Buffalo Beauty.
I was in Ottawa while this was happening.
I was at this game.
Yeah, I was in Jersey, right?
Yep.
As a way to bring themselves together to honor her and to try to bring her a championship, the first in the United States women's hockey history. Steve dropped it back to Falzer, poked away out of the box. Is Decker smelting the long way pass by Decker. She walks in back into a big save. Rebound score. Blake Bolden crashing it in.
Woo, Blake! I did not remember that Blake scored the first ever goal in an Isabel Cup final. Ooh, Marvin.
You gotta stick to it.
Buffalo looks to clear the zone. McDonald, right wing pass finds Stedman. Here's Stedman.
Kelly Stedman.
Brittany on is there. She made a great save. Great time finally over for Brittany on. Hillary Knight.
There you go. I can't remember.
Broken up by a sliding error. Zach. That checked away. Who's puck in the slot? And Falzer put it just wide. Here's the shield. Falzer looking in the slot.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But they score! And Buffalo makes it a 1-0 game. Decker was able to make a great block, but Buffalo kept up the pressure. That's what the Fuchs needed. They're back in this game.
Oh yeah, Amanda Makala was the third goalie. Yep. That was Amanda Makala. You just saw her on the bench.
Skelter skates it across offside the Pride. A little bit of miscommunication on 2 occasions.
I think maybe we had lost track of the type of hockey that we were successful with, what we were supposed to be doing.
Do your own fucking job, all right? Everybody's worried about everyone else. Do your own fucking job.
Our bench was sort of quiet, and that was a really pivotal thing for us as a team, was supporting each other. And we had sort of died down a little bit. Maybe the Buffalo crowd was sort of critiquing.
Brown looks to center and loose puck. Falzer with a blast. They score! Emily Falzer ties it up with 13:42 to go. You look at the Pride. They're stunned right now. They can't believe it's tied. The Fuchs never give up. They're never say die team. And we got a tie in game 1. Hey, ref. Timeout. Yeah, the fuck yes.
Not yup, the fuck yes.
Let's go. Fucking it. Hey, listen. The stairs as much as ours right now. But it's up to you guys to get your shit together. And here's how. We're like fucking moping, we're in bad place. Let's go. Play. We all get frustrated, pissed off, feel shitty, we make mistakes, and you down on myself. You're old enough, professional enough, you're good enough, get out of it. Get yourselves out of it, you can do it. You're here to win too. You got a battle, you will get it. You gotta go. Bosa got 2 goals in the deciding game 3 on Sunday. Now it's Stedman left side, she scores! Kelly Stedman racing up from the left side. And the Fuchs have their first lead in the game with 7:22 to go.
Gosh, Kelly Stedman. Good Lord. Miss seeing her play.
Oh, love Steady so much.
Does she actually say that? Like, I can't even. I can't deal with the subtweeting that happens in women's hockey that we all know about, but nobody talks
Maddie,
about.
come on. It's just like, if you didn't, like, you can't, like, erase yourself from a league's history. Like, you can't do that. Yeah, you did ruin a steady moment with Knight. Oh, Borrow, you're really gonna listen? That fucking, excuse my language. John Borrow, what up?
And this 20 minutes of the for overtime has begun.
Yeah, this was the freaking penalty shot one, right?
Yep. Right here.
Yep.
Right there.
And play stops with 17:31 remaining in overtime. That puck squirted through the legs of the clock, and it was sitting there in the crease, and all the Buffalo defenders, everyone just diving on top of the puck. And there's a penalty shot coming because the referee said that the puck was covered by one of the Buse players in the crease. A penalty shot in the first ever NWHL Isabel Cup final, and it could win it in overtime. I'm speechless right now, by the way. It has to be shown on the ice. Okay. Hillary. And it's Hillary Knight who's going to take the penalty shot. Hey, regardless, keep your focus. Biggest moment for McLaughlin in her NWHL career. Biggest moment in the NWHL Isabel Cup Finals.
Damn, I miss a series.
What a BS way to end a freaking game, especially in the playoffs. Oh, Haley Williams!
Here's hoping we see women's hockey in 2024.
That.
Seconds left before Danny Ryland comes out and presents the Isabel Cup for the first time in league history.
No, we came there with a mission.
Blake!
We wanted to finish what we started. And I think, we did the best that we could. And we won.
Controlled by Zach. 2 seconds to go. Time runs out, and Boston takes the Isabel Cup.
Thanks so much for joining us. We can't even believe that you did that. I'll catch up with
y'all. Are amazing.
We love y'all.
Yeah.
Come hang with us and CJ in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, Courtney Kunchika.
Your team has the number 24 behind your bench. Denali is out there watching somewhere. This entire season, everything that your team has been through, what would you like to tell them?
The Isabel Cup is coming to you. Did this for you, Ken.
Baby Demps.
I know. Aww.
Left the celebration to come and grab her phone so she could FaceTime me to make sure I was included. And that was definitely I thought that was so selfless of her. Even though I couldn't be there with them, I definitely felt still part of the team. And felt still part of the moment.
Those pants are fire. Last time that cup was on that ice, Erica Lawler almost fucking ate it.
Yeah. Wow, when the Isabel Cup had handles.
Yep.
Oh, the pre-handle incident days. To be fair, those handles looked like they were like taped on.
The first game of the season, it was just so special.
Handles.
It was something that I wasn't sure I would ever be a part of. And none of it was about the whale or me. Obviously, when the puck dropped, it was about the whale. But in that moment,
Bray.
I realized that
Bray.
it was all about,
Yep.
screaming, hundreds of screaming little girls. These little girls are looking at us.
I know. I hope they keep the trophy.
Professional hockey players, and they're going to get a chance. They get a chance to dream.
Yeah, the Pride broke those.
The Boston Pride won the Isabel Cup, but Danny Riley's won something much better. She's won the season. She pulled this off on a nothing budget with her fingernails and her bare teeth.
Oh, there goes my sister.
I can't see because my damn thing keeps crashing. There's 5 minutes left. You can't hang on for 5 minutes?
Australia to watch us play. We've watched the WNBA, we've watched professional women's soccer, and there are different approaches, there are different models, and we wonder, can we find a sustainable model for women to play sports? Because the money, the big bucks, just are not there right now.
There's very clearly sexism. Nobody's coming out and telling 9-year-olds, well, it's illegal for you to own a hockey stick. But there's so few women's camps, there's so few girls' camps. When the opportunities aren't there, how are you going to get better? And that gives ample ammo to people saying that I don't value a woman's play as much because I think she's not as good. And they should probably examine why they think women are good at sports, but they think men are. I can name a number of men I know who suck at sports. I'm great at them. Come on, do the math.
Hockey is where I grew up. Every Sunday we would head to church. We'd head to the rink. It's where I met all my hockey sisters. It's where I learned hard work and sacrifice and the excitement of winning and how to deal with failure. I don't know, hockey is a lot. And I definitely wouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. They were already fragile. And it was like, well, if one's coming off, might as well. Okay, the NWHL has expanded to 7 teams and is in its 8th season. Well, Danny Ryan resigned from the league in March of 2021. Did she? In September 2021, the league officially rebranded as the Premier Hockey Federation. And then they give Christopher Reeve organization. Okay, interesting. Aw. Thanks for watching with us, Hayden. Yeah, I think I was more emotional just kind of seeing some of the images. The story, I think it's hard for me to get a grasp on how I feel about the story just because literally so much has happened.
Yeah.
since, and there's still more happening now. I think also I would have liked them to maybe follow all 4 teams a little bit more closely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't understand why, if Danny Ryland's one of your main subjects, how you couldn't get access to the Riveters, but so that was a little strange. I think overall not bad. I think I've seen someone else say it. They were like, not the doc I would have made, but still enjoyable.
Yeah. When I'm watching a documentary, I try to keep in mind, like, what story are you trying to tell with the footage that you edit and decide to keep and take out? Like, what's the narrative? I think that it did a decent job of, providing a narrative of a league that is very much in its startup phase, like literally in its first hour of operation, so to speak. I think that you're definitely right. I would have loved, as I was watching it, I was like, yeah, we really could have used like Megan Duggan's perspective, or Madison Pack's perspective, or something like that. So I don't know. I think that the story that they were trying to make was of its time for that period of the league. But like you said, so much has happened between then and now that it definitely doesn't feel like, it doesn't tell the whole story, number one, and it can't, because it's only season 1 of 8. But also, like, it just isn't of this time. You can definitely tell it's not of this time.
No, and I don't think that, for me, it didn't tell. I don't know. It was like glazing past the story of season 1. Like, there was so much that happened in season 1. And again, I think if you're trying to keep it concise, like, they could have done a whole documentary alone on how many GMs and head coaches the Connecticut Whale went through in season 1. But like, how do you follow, they had Engstrom and Botolino there, and they, don't talk about, and then they're kind of talking about her in and out with the team, but like they didn't talk about how the Connecticut Whale was the team that came out of the gate quick.
Right. Exactly.
I think, and you really don't have any context. Like, I happen to know Anya, and I know a lot of Anya from the league, and I know just enough of her story right before the league, right. But I don't know that if you, drop in that alien that everyone's talking about on social media and put them in a room with us to watch this, would they be like, yeah, why isn't Anya playing? And I feel like if you knew a little more about Anya's story, I feel like an asshole saying this, but I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between the story that they're trying to tell about someone making a roster in this burgeoning league, which is very interesting. And if you're a sports person or you're a hockey person, I think there's also a story of telling the real story of someone who is a grinder, who has had to bust their butt even to make NCAA Division I, and is now continuing this journey. Like, I don't know how Celeste Brown wasn't a part of this. I mean, she goes to an interview just like on a whim, like packs up all her shit from Montana and drives to, the tri-state area to do a tryout. I think that there are different ways that they could have told a gritty story. And I don't think it really tells enough about the hockey in season 1.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off that, I feel like a big part of like the conversation, again, I mean, it's
agreed.
Like, it's trying to bring a perspective. Like, obviously the information about Denna, like, obviously that story is important to the storyline for the Boston Pride. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. But some of the, like, what's going on?
Sorry.
Girl?
It's baseball related. The Mets just traded.
I'm like, girl, why you give me that face, girl?
The Mets
But
just traded Max Scherzer to the Rangers. I guess he's not in the National League, but anyway, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We're trying to make room for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But yeah. I think that a lot of the I feel like the narrative kind of told this story of like a team facing adversity through the Boston Pride, who, yes, they had that adversity with Denna, but had they not had that adversity with Denna, there really wouldn't have been much in the way of a story for them. So it kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it kind of lent a little bit on that like melodrama of them, losing 2 in a row after starting like that kind of stuff. It's like you said, you can tell a story of people literally like actually overcoming adversity to make this new pro league. As you mentioned, I feel like it didn't hit the right dramatic chords for me. I'll just say that.
I think it went super broad. I think there was a lot more to get into. I think again, I if I had to guess, there's a lot more raw footage, and I also think it's very probable that, I mean, again, remember in season 2 they had to cut salaries. I mean, sometimes people say like halfway through. It wasn't halfway through the season, like not even maybe a quarter.
It wasn't even December. I think it was like December when that happened.
Yeah, and they dropped the puck in October, so there you go. But also it's a short season. But my point is, it was pretty early on, and I think we heard hints. And I mean, I don't know who that NHL guy is, but he was like, "Yeah, you have to make some changes immediately if this thing is gonna keep going." And even like Molly Engstrom's
dad had that question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say all of Molly Engstrom's interviews, I mean, knowing that they were taken like 8-9 years ago, but that you could literally plop them into women's hockey right now is both really eerie. It's a lot of things. It's eerie, it's extremely frustrating, it's heartbreaking. I mean, it burns my grits. Like there's just so many emotions that I had listening to conversations that she was having, because I'm like, gosh, why are we still doing this? And
it's just, it's so cyclical, right? It just like every time you think you're making a step forward, you make a right turn and you're right back where you started. I feel like it's just,
and I feel like it doesn't have to be that way. Listen, if
it's counterintuitive.
If the league had folded after season 2, all right, but it didn't. And some people took exception to that. And I don't have a feeling either way. I completely understand why people are upset and don't want to trust that anymore. And what we know now for a fact is that if the league hadn't done what they did in season 2, we don't get to a point where the PHF can even be sold. So yeah,
sorry, I don't know what happened.
So, like that is just the reality of it. Yes. So Madison saying, and I would love to write a book. Like I need to do more in-depth interviews. And again, I feel like I was saying it earlier on, but I've been just really focused on trying to report the facts of what's going on in women's hockey, because I'll just put it this way, that seemed to be where there was a gap, a void.
Yeah.
But
it's so funny because I was literally talking to people over the last year about a book on the history of the league. So, but because there's so much to talk about, so much to discuss.
Well, to finish my thought. So what I was saying is that, like it's been emotional to go through this. It's been emotional to, and I'm obviously not a player, but like as someone who's been invested in the league, it's been extremely emotional, because there's just a lot that we don't know right now, and there's so much work that went into getting women's hockey to where it is, and I don't know that we start back up where we left off. That's what really pisses me off about the unknowing. I mean, I don't know at this. The only way that I can say we start where we left off is if we have more than 6 teams, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen. If we have players that, you know, are making a living wage, all of the players, and, you know, listen, you can argue that maybe 55K is entry level, you know, versus, you know, early on in your career. Like, you can make that argument. Where is 55K a real livable wage? I think the answer is very few places right now. Is that a decent amount of money, though, to be able to make at a job? I mean, it's all relative, right? Because if we're talking the professional landscape of sports, that's a really low paying professional sports job.
Yep.
If you're talking a teacher, then yeah, you're about entry level at a teacher salary or a writer's salary. So, you know, it's all relative. But it's just really hard for me right now to confidently say that whatever happens with this new league, we are starting at minimum where we left off with the combined infrastructure, though be it segregated, of the PWHPA and the PHF. I don't think there's an answer. I don't think that is going to happen. And if I had confidence that, okay, like that first year is going to be a little rocky, but like year 2 is going to fucking rock, you know, I don't know that I see that. And I get the incremental gains to some extent, but I also wonder, and I guess this was in the Miles Arnon, or he said it in his Q&A, but like, is it good business? You know, all this business 101 that men folk are always tweeting at me. Is it business 101 to spend an undisclosed amount of money to buy assets that you're never going to use and then start something that's less than the assets that you already have? Like, it's like you're double paying. You've already paid for it. Let it rock for a year and then blow it up. I don't know.
That's just very exactly what I was saying to somebody yesterday. Actually, we were talking about this very topic, and I'm like, you know, hold on to it for a year. No, actually, earlier today to my friend Steph, because she was asking about it, and I told her, I was like, you know, if you wanted to hold on to the branding for a year and then, you know, talk about all of that and talk about rebranding to your own thing, then that's one thing. But you know, to just completely blow it up and start over, it makes it really, really difficult for me not to think that it has more to do with you crushing the competition than it does you actually wanting to grow the sport, because it's so counterintuitive. It defeats the entire purpose unless you look at it through that kind of capitalistic lens, which I hate doing, but we kind of have to think about it that way, because that's unfortunately that's unfortunately where too many people who have a stake in professional sports look at it. They look at it purely from the capitalist perspective, purely from the money-making perspective, and they don't look at it in terms of, you know, if we bought this league and we kept the branding and we respected the signings that were already made, and we just, you know, focused on overhauling next year, then we can at least get our foot in the door.
Yeah.
Instead, it was just, you know, no, your contracts are voided. You don't count anymore. You don't, it's very, and then to make the, because the argument can be, like, people will probably try to argue that, well, you know, the PHF, they didn't have a CBA. They didn't have a union, And, okay, sure, but when that CBA is, again, like you said, less than where we were at in year 8 of the PHF, you, like, I don't know. It's just, it's something that really intrigues me to think about.
And something that I was talking about early on, and I know some of my group chats know that I went into more detail with this privately, but something that I've really questioned is, so the timeline of when the CBA was set to ratify and the announcement of the sale, who had control over, or in theory, who had control or some autonomy over both of those things? The only entity within the women's hockey landscape as it exists today, July 29th, that had information regarding both of those things is the ownership group.
Yep.
And the ownership group, and this is what Miles talks about in his Q&A, there was a non-disclosure agreement eventually that was signed as the conversations to acquire. I don't know. And again, some of this we might not ever know until someone anonymously drops this or they put it in a memoir or something. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, what Miles says clearly is that you might think that it's kind of handcuffing all parties if there's an NDA. But what he really, I thought, articulated well, and people should pay heed to, is that the party that benefits from the NDA is the ownership group, the Mark Walter group, because they, what the PWHPA was talking about, they knew what the PHF was talking about. They had access to records on both sides. It became clear through, well, a lot of what was reported publicly. And then I think Miles reinforces that neither the PHF or the PWHPA were really talking to each other. At times, they were maybe talking at each other with another party in the room, like the NHL, for example, but they never were really talking to each other. And a group comes in, they have access to everything. And again, I'm just curious that the timing of the CBA being ratified at the same time of the announcement of the acquisition of the PHF, but then also locking players in now to an 8-year CBA for the first go round. I don't know. That's not what I like. Okay, so let's go to some of these comments, because Maddie saying that they were scared of the PHF competition, and I think that's something fair. That I've been, and it's something that I know for a fact that people from the NHL early on in women's hockey were saying, yeah, someone wants to know if we'd buy them out. And we're like, we're not going to buy them out. Like, why would we do that? There's no value there. So the fact that there was an acquisition, I think is definitely something. But again, that's money that people had, let's just say, earmarked, right, from their massive wealth to women's hockey. And now that money basically went to purchase assets that are going to the grave.
Yeah.
And so, they got tired of waiting for the PHF to fold, I think. And they picked that day on purpose. Forrester also saying, definitely on purpose. I mean, the timing is just very curious,
It's,
So I think that we have talked about this on our podcast, right? We did a YouTube kind of show, like a live regarding, and we walked through what, again, we believe to be the ratified copy. It's still, they say it's been ratified. It has not been made public yet. And there are some interesting things in there. And I think there are things that, if you look at them as a chunk, like broad strokes, they are definitely things that were parts of conversations on how to make women's hockey better. But the way that it's worded comparative to where the PHF was when it was acquired, is there that much of a difference?
I mean, not really. And again, I think that's kind of that's where my frustration comes in, because again, this was an organization that told everybody that it was going to create a better option, a more viable option, a more lucrative option. And I don't see that.
Yeah. And Maddie, just to answer your question, Boynton's new ? Can't hear. Courage scored. Congrats to the NC Courage. Glad you got a goal. I don't know what the score is, so you can drop it in the chat if you are so good. But so I don't know how much the Boyntons knew. I just know that from Miles's Q&A that was in the Hockey News, the non-disclosure agreement that the PHF and the PWHPA signed off on meant that they were not talking while the details of the acquisition were being worked out. And so Miles is saying that from his vantage point, the Mark Walter Group had the lion's share. They had a monopoly on women's hockey information. And so I always thought it was curious that you push through to sign a CBA and then also announce that you acquired a brand new league. I just think that's really interesting timing, because from what I've gathered, and Kaylee Fratkin said this in an interview that I did with her, the PHFPA was in the process of becoming a formal union in the same way that I don't know, like, honestly, the acronyms are all over the place right now. Anyway, I'm just going to say PWHPA, and I'm using that as the name for the union. And if I mean the league, then I'll say the PWHPA Barnstorming League. The PWHPA, which is effectively has rolled into the union.
Yes.
You know, the PHFPA was doing a similar process. They were just a few steps behind. 5-0. Holy cow.
Yeah, they're killing it.
That's
and that was what Nicole Carrero had said to me, shortly before everything kind of went pear-shaped. So yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, pear-shaped. Okay, let's get into this one. Maybe the PW thinks so if they were willing to work with the ownership group, since we know they didn't like anything to do with NW anymore. I mean, and again, I think this is, if we follow the bad blood, and if we follow the kind of cadence of conversation since, it's just, I don't know. There's just
I don't know how things are. But go ahead, sorry.
You cut out a little.
No, sorry. Finish your thought and then I'll go with mine.
Well, yeah, I lost where I was going. So I didn't hear what you said though.
No, what I was saying is that I don't know how connected those two conversations really are, because I feel like the bad blood was more on the player side, whereas, a lot of this I think is more so, I feel like the players are not as involved with the process as we all would like to think. I think that the ownership group involved with the players, I think that they just saw an opportunity, they took it, and they saw it as a way to, again, eliminate the competition. Whereas the players, there's that kind of, I guess, pride and ego, I guess, on that end of it, when it comes to seeing a league that, they didn't have a great time in, pretty much.
You're right. And the reason that it matters how players were talking about the NWHL and then eventually the PHF is because Billie Jean King wasn't coming to hockey games before 2019.
Right. Yeah.
And so, again, in private group chats, I've talked about this throughout over the years, but the one thing that the PWHPA did, the Barnstorming League, not the union moving forward, because I do think you're right, Angelica, that now there's more separation than there's ever been. But the PWHPA, kind of like the movement barnstorming model, was really good at limited, like, how do I want to say this? They were really good at consistent messaging that was led by people who were going to grab attention from mainstream media. At minimum, we're going to grab attention from mainstream hockey media.
Right.
But when you look at the conversation over the years, I'm of the opinion that the conversation lacked depth.
Right.
It lacked nuance, and it didn't change even as the PHF itself, the NWHL/PHF changed. And so it often left me wondering, okay, I hear what you're saying. What you're saying makes sense. And it definitely made sense when you started this in 2019. But now we're a year later. Now it's 2 years, 3 years, 4, all these years later, your messaging hasn't changed. This still isn't good enough for you. To each their own, that's fine. But neither what you are doing,
or what you plan on doing in the future.
Exactly. Neither what you are doing. No, what you are doing doesn't meet your own standards. And you have yet to fulfill those standards, at least in a tangible way, in what will be. And here's the thing, PHF off the table. And I think Miles was alluding to this, and I agree with him to a certain extent. And again, we just have to go off of a copy of the CBA that we're not even sure is the final copy. But I think that what Miles said, I wish I had the direct quote because I talked about it on Locked on NHL, but he basically said, if I'm paraphrasing, that there are things that the PWHPA stood for and that they've compromised some of those things in the CBA. And I thought it was an interesting comment. I think that I can understand why he made the comment, but I do think that comment and that statement lacks nuance in and of itself, because people are going to latch onto that and, are going to want to say he's absolutely right. Or they're going to want to say he's just, buyer's or seller's remorse, And all of those things can be true. But what we just don't know right now is how true, how factual that is. There are certain figures that I've seen that make me believe that, yeah, that can be true. But if they're playing on during prime time on ESPN, does that tilt the ice, so to speak? I don't know. I just don't know. We don't know enough.
But that's also, that's a really interesting concept. There's so many gaps and there's so much blank space in between that question and that answer.
Exactly.
I think that, again, with the Miles Arnone interview, like I said, I took it with a shaker of salt because, obviously, there's limited perspectives. I think that you're right when it comes to the consistent messaging portion of what the PWHPA, the Barnstorming League, was able to do. And I think that the PHF kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit by never necessarily responding.
And Miles talked about that too.
Yeah. It's and that's where I kind of believe him in terms of the PW being one way and the PHF being the other, because we've seen that over the last 4 years, the PHF has never really fought back or bitten back at the PWHPA, the players who spoke out. They've never really wanted to feed into that, which is admirable in one point. But if you're not at the very least providing the facts, providing transparency about those facts, and providing, the perspective from a factual standpoint, because, amongst other things, amongst all the things you mentioned with that messaging that the PWHP, the league, the players were giving, one thing that it also was emotion driven. A lot of it, when you read it, that's kind of pure emotion driven messaging. There's no professional league in North America. Players have to work, this hard. The little girls in the stands, which is always a favorite. All of that, tugs at your heartstrings, and you're like, oh man, this is bad. We need to stand. And I'm working on a concept for girl boss messaging in women's hockey specifically, because I feel like it's in a lot of women's sports, but specifically women's hockey has kind of latched onto it, especially as of late. And I really want to dive into that because I feel like that's a lot of it too, is that, these women are doing their own thing and they're doing, they're fighting for a better league and this, that, and the third, when in reality, I mean, you look at it and were they really fighting for a new league, or were they fighting for the existing league to just die? Were they hoping for the NHL to just kind of swoop in and save them and be, the white knights that they've always wanted them to be?
And I think Billie Jean King has earned a reputation, and I understand why. And I've said this before. It's like, Billie Jean King has been an integral part of women's sports history for white women in tennis. And a lot of times people try to take the BJK approach to other sports. We've seen soccer do it, and now hockey do it. And I think that you want to have Billie Jean King in your corner, because one time I got to interview Billie Jean King. I thought the most profound thing that she said to me is that the reason that you fight for legislation is because you want something official on the books. And it doesn't necessarily, I mean, I'm paraphrasing what she said, but you don't need it to be the best thing ever the first time around, but you do need something on the books, because then that at least gives you something foundational.
That's how we got started.
I mean, I think there's something to be said there. The issue is that when you build a movement of people who are either content with whatever the first version is, or benefit by that first version remaining the way it is, that's when you have 51, I guess, years now after Title IX being effectively ineffective for anyone other than white girls and women.
And it goes again to that whole idea that, the white girls and women are the ones benefiting, so they don't think anything is wrong with that approach, which is why, again, we have this cycle of settling for good enough and not necessarily focusing on the intersections that we see all the time in hockey. When it comes to gender, when it comes to race, when it comes to socioeconomic class, because hockey is a very expensive sport. I think that, and again, that kind of goes into that whole girl pause mentality of, oh yeah, Title IX is so great for white girls because they're the ones who benefit the most from that, while Black and Latina girls and young women are left in the dust. And then
and we're seeing that again. Now there's this big movement to put more money and have more equity. I think Ally's doing a great job with their messaging, saying, we're equally committing to men's and women's sports, and they're giving money to people like ESPN. Somehow ESPN couldn't figure out how to show more women's sports until someone underwrote it. And I love that. Except for that, when I literally asked Andrea Brimmer, who is, I forget her title at Ally Bank, but she's an executive. And I asked her, I said, I love what you're talking about. And how are you also making things equitable for people of color, for women of color in the sport? How are you equitably making sure that their stories are covered, that they are featured in media, that they are media members telling these stories of the increased coverage? How are you making sure that happens? And every time I've asked that question of someone who's trying to create equity in sport, when I ask them how are they creating equity in sport and creating racial equity, there's no answer. And that's why am I talking about this? Because I feel like when you involve someone at the level of Billie Jean King, you're hitting the high notes, right? You are trying to get the heavy hitters, because BJK is a heavy hitter. She has the ear of people, and you don't want to be an asshole man on the wrong side of not supporting something that Billie Jean King is doing. That being said, and some of it was a little bit in the miles, interview. Again, you have to take that with a grain of salt. I was not in those conversations, but it was alluded to with Billie Jean King and just overall the PWHPA, who it even came out in this documentary, right? There's a difference. There's an elitism that comes with being an Olympian. And you know what? There's a part of that is earned because they do put in the work and they do all of this stuff. But what does that look like when you're trying to create a air quotes movement for women's hockey, but you also have an entitlement that you feel? What is unacceptable to an Olympian and a Jillian Dempsey, just as an example, because she has never been an Olympian, those are two different things. I mean, also, I would argue that Jillian Dempsey just has a very unique demeanor and she's a sweetheart as far as I can tell. So just putting personality to the side, I'm just using Jillian Dempsey as an example of someone who I think is an elite level athlete, but is not considered elite level by hockey because she's not an Olympian. But I think what we're seeing in how the conversation in women's hockey has played out is that we are catering to the upper echelon, and that's fine. But you know, Brandon Tanev arguably is not an elite level NHLer, but he still has market appeal because he saw a ghost while he took a freaking headshot. You know,
yes.
Who was that E-Bug, right? Who played in Carolina?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my God,
one of the biggest stories in the last 5 years. I can't remember the guy's name right now. If I saw a picture of him, I would know him. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I think it's interesting how women's sports, we say that we want to, you know, level the playing field and we want equity, but we really want equity only for the women in sport who we think are going to be marketable, who are overwhelmingly street, they are overwhelmingly white, and they are overwhelmingly independently wealthy, or their family comes from money. Overwhelmingly. Now, I'm not talking about everyone, but that's who we're catering to. And it's not like there's a lack of that in women's hockey.
Right. No, there isn't.
That being said, though, that shit gets tired because, you know, look at how things are marketed. Look at the World Cup. They're marketing the crap out of Alex Morgan right now, who is not even close to the best player on the women's team right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, when is it that women have to be winners? Ayers. Okay, what was his first name? That was his last name. Ayers. Yes.
David Ayers. I think it was David Ayers.
Okay, we've got our hero.
Again, it goes back to, like, also there's this really, really weird double standard because, of course, I mean, we talk about
celebrate him. I love that.
I love that. You know, we talk about, though, you know, the double standards for for male athletes and female athletes. You look at the way that male athletes can get away with literal murder and still have a career, but a woman in the same position gets vilified and gets completely essentially blackballed. You know, God forbid a woman smoke a cigar on the ice and people clutch their pearls. A woman has to be completely above reproach if they're going to be a pro athlete. Why? Because we need role models for the little girls in the stands.
Right.
For a sport like women's hockey to be marketable, it needs to be top tier, best against best, yada, yada, yada. Which, you know, who's even to say that this new league is going to be the absolute best against the absolute best? Because, again, you're downsizing. You're not going to have
No.
Yikes.
Oh, boy.
Anyway. But,
sorry,
you're good. You're good. But, God, I lost my train of thought. Fuck. Oh, my God. You know, you have to be above reproach. You have to be, you know, a good role model for the little girls in the stands. You have to be, you know, you have to have the best competition regardless. of what that actually means. You're downsizing a league from 7 teams to 6. You're definitely leaving out elite talent. And let's not make any bones.
You're not, but see, that's the thing. It's not 7 to 6. It's 11. It's 11 to 6.
Fair. Yeah.
Because they own
that.
all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. So you are downsizing, and there's going to be at least 100, if not more, athletes who are at the top of their game who are not going to be able to play anywhere unless they go overseas or find like a rec league to play in. Like, it's not. We only ever have these conversations when it's about women's sports. Like you said, I mean, John Scott was an NHL All-Star a few years back. John Scott, because he had the marketability and fans really rallied behind him to get him there. You know? Meanwhile, we have, But
and I mean, and it's a balance, right? You have to hit the marketability, you have to hit the notes. But I mean, silly me, I think that people still want to see good talent. They want to see entertaining people. And yeah, sometimes that means that they're good looking. And if they hit all three, that's kind of the trifecta. But it's not just any one thing. And I don't know. Well, if I had to guess, it's that, and it was mentioned in the documentary, right? In women's sports, there's so few people doing so many tasks. And for whatever reason, the task of like digging a little bit deeper into your own player pool to tell compelling stories is the thing that we leave on the back burner.
Right.
It took Blake Bolden getting more proximity to the NHL for her story to be a national story, which is ridiculous.
And again, but that's, again, we always look at women in relation to men. I mean, that's all that broadcasts talk about. Like, you know, who is which NHLer's sister and or daughter or this, that, and the third. You know, it's always in relation to men, with men being the default. And that was kind of the biggest thing that was also another thing that I really did not like about in the beginning of the film, especially, which, I mean, Kate Samini and I are still, like, we don't talk very often, but we talk occasionally. Like, she is, you know, somebody I consider an acquaintance, and she was a colleague for a little bit during season 1 and part of season 2. But her discussion of the NHL having to get involved before anything really happens, I mean, the past 8 years, and again, I understand that this probably wasn't anywhere close to the last year or two, but, you know, you look at that discussion 8 years later, and it's like, again, we're not only, you know, talking about women, you know, female athletes, or, you know, women's hockey players in relation to men's hockey, but we are also, you know, going to just completely discredit the concept of a women's league being able to do it on their own, which, again, the PHF did for 8 seasons. So, and they were going to do it for a 9th before this buyout. So it's like, and again, I've said this, I've written columns about this, I will say it till the day I die. The NHL does not need to have shit to do with a women's league for a women's league to truly prosper and to truly flourish, because it was.
I mean, they're not going to anytime soon.
That's the thing, is that you're putting this idea that nobody on that side is even thinking about.
If they get more than strategically alliance, or any of that dumb stuff that we saw. Listen, like, what did they say in the documentary? They called it a grant. Yeah, give us a $50K grant. Give us a $250K grant every freaking year.
Dollars for a freaking league that grosses, like, the revenue is what, 4.1 billion a year.
But here's the thing. I don't see. This is the thing that I was saying. I don't remember if I said it publicly, but I'm saying it publicly now. This is the thing that I didn't think made any sense regarding the PWHPA early on insisting that the NHL had to get involved. We very shortly after that realized that we were in a pandemic. Then we saw that the players of the NHL themselves decided to, cut a company deal, and the salary cap stopped increasing. Then, of course, when the NHL is at single sites, all they kept saying is how much money they're losing, how much money they're losing, how much money they're losing. And so now they've come back, and all of a sudden they're not losing money anymore because of those digital billboards, which everyone except for Gary Bettman hates. So here's my thing. My point is that the NHL has been talking very publicly about how it doesn't have any money until all of a sudden it wants to gloat about like the one thing that it did to make money. And I get it from a marketing perspective. Digital billboards make a lot of sense. Totally understand. I think they look like crap on the ice, and people have said that they're harmful. So I don't know why we just don't get rid of it. Anyway, my point is there's a lot of conversations the NHL is having about money, and not one of them, 99 problems. And you know the rest, what Jay-Z said about the rest. 99 problems and women's hockey ain't one. 99 problems and women's hockey is not a near one. It's not a sublip. It's not a canker sore. It's not it's not a crab in their jock. They're not worried about women's hockey.
You said a crab in their jock. I'm dead. No, and again, it also stands to say you're looking at creating a league that's more more for the players, and you keep talking about players deserving way better working conditions, and you're looking to court favor and money from a league that has historically not really been that kind to its players, either financially or in terms of taking care of them after retirement. There's so much you can point to when it comes to the NHL being anti-labor, being anti-player, having how many freaking lockouts in the last 15 years? And that's who you want to court favor for your new pro player league?
Is this your king? Is this your king?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It does. That's when I really realized, and I hate to say it like this, but that's when I realized that messaging was full of shit. You never really cared about every single player, and multiple players that I talked to have said, if you are not a national team player, the PW barnstorming era, they didn't care about you. So, or if you didn't have connections, or if you didn't, they didn't care. So this is not me saying this. This is them saying this. That's when I knew that messaging was full of bullshit, because you don't necessarily care about every player. You care about you. And that's fine, but just say that. And step aside and let somebody else actually fight for everybody.
And if they had said with their whole chest consecutively, we don't think this league is good enough. We're waiting for it to pass, and then we'll get more involved. I mean, effectively, I'll speak for myself, but the narrative changed slightly. But to me, the tone always felt like that was the tone, which I don't want to say I'm fine with. I understand that point of view, because I'll say it this way. I understand that point of view because that's the point of view that the NHL has. The NHL was like, well, we can't give to one, then the other. So then they gave to both. And then it was like, well, we're not going to invest fully in both. We need it only to be one. And then the CWHL folded, and then they were like, well, no, we don't want to give to that one. And so now what's the excuse going to be? Because this is the one the Olympians chose. There's no Danny Rylan. It's a single entity. So if the NHL at the league office doesn't get involved this time with women's hockey, then what is the problem?
Oh, the markets aren't where we like them to be. Well, we need to see, how the first 3 seasons go, and then we'll look at it, because, we don't have a whole lot of money to spend here. Our revenue is only $4 billion.
That TikTok influencer, how much money did they give to that TikTok influencer?
Oh my God, probably at least 10 grand. Like, you know, they've got money to throw to these like little teeny boppers who I don't even know half their names. They're like Hayden, Jaden, and Zayden. Like, it's just they'll do that. But, you know, God forbid women's hockey asks for $500,000.
Yeah. Maddie Kay says women's hockey will never be a priority for the NHL, and I don't know why anyone thinks it ever will be. And then
At the most, it's going to be charity.
Yeah, yes, we've always known non-national teamers did not have a seat at the table, you know, and they invited Sereners to the All-Star weekend, and, you know, but they hand select these women who, again, are somewhat marketable, and I get it. It's their NHL All-Star weekend. I totally get it. But, you know, I mean, not even the NHL players knew what was happening during that little exhibition or whatever the heck was happening. You know, it's just like, there's a tipping point between being genuinely enthusiastic for someone getting a chance and kind of patronizing, you know, and clapping for every little accomplishment that a woman does, or insert any identifier. But, you know, there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point for being genuinely excited for someone and being patronizing. And I feel more often than not than that what happens in NHL spaces is patronizing. Like, for example, and this was really, I had to kind of check myself a little bit here, but I don't know. So in Boston, I almost said the Pride, which apparently new ownership group doesn't like the double entendre of Pride, which we're going to have to do a deep dive into that. Yeah. Like I cannot.
I saw the rainbow in my freaking eye line when I read that because I was like,
I mean, it's
what?
Surprising, but like, okay, so you do know Hillary Knight has a girlfriend, right? Because that's your king.
Not only that, but like
has a whole wife. Yeah, like so.
Marie-Philip Poulin literally got engaged to Laura Stacey. Both of them played in the P-Dubs. So like, you really want to have this conversation? Because
so it's very strange behavior. But anyway, but you know, the Dodgers also tiptoed around having.
Oh yeah, this is super professional indulgence. Yeah.
So there you go. But anyway, and now, of course, I completely forgot where I was going with this. The point is, women's hockey is a mess. The documentary was very nostalgic, but definitely left us obviously just fiending for more information in the here and now. But also just, I wish that we were brought along. I know they had those little, you know, notes at the end. And I guess, I don't know. It was an interesting story to tell, but I think maybe it would have had more impact if it were closer to season 1. And if they were going to have it so far removed from season 1, then I just think that there's so much that has happened with those cast of characters, even if you only focused on the main cast of characters, that it seems like a disservice not to bring us further along on their journey.
I think a miniseries probably would have been a lot better, you know, to get that because so many of the players, almost all of the players that we saw in that doc weren't playing by year 8. They weren't even playing by year 3. So it's just, there's so much perspective. Yeah, Fratty. Yeah. Like that was it.
Like who else that was interviewed was still playing? Nobody except for Fratty.
Oh. Yeah. So like, you know, just having that gap in the knowledge, and like if you knew it was going to be so long, or even if you didn't, but if you saw that time was going on, I understand that this kind of defeats the purpose. But I think you almost have a responsibility unless you frame it like. And I'm sure she framed it as just year 1 of the NWHL, yeah. But like again, that's even from year 1 to year 2, things changed. Even from it's almost like you have a responsibility to represent that.
Right. And I mean, it didn't make sense. Then what I think needed to happen is that you bring in someone to do voiceover so that you're connecting the dots. Because watching that as a person who consumes women's hockey information, it made no sense to me to have Kate Samini a focal point. It
Yeah.
made no sense. I mean, Rachel Donner, I know, still does work in hockey, but has not been in women's hockey for quite some time. You know, I just think that there are other low budget ways to get us closer to, what we've been. We could have watched hours of behind the scenes, only Fratty and Apex still involved. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Anya is involved, but mostly now through her wife. Like, she's not even directly involved as an executive in the last season. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. We caught the same wave.
even people we were seeing kind of adjacent to the main cast of characters. You know,
I mean,
so many of them, so many of those. You know, we could have talked to Dempsey. We could have talked to Madison Packer. We could have talked to even Elena Orlando. I know she didn't play last year, but I mean, she was involved up until then. You know, there were a lot of people that you could have looked at. Kareem Booth, even, you know, I know that she retired a couple seasons ago, but still, you know, that
was a heartbreaker.
I know that killed me because I was like, oh, like I honestly
retired as a member of the Minnesota Whitecaps.
But if the Buttes were still around, I think she would be the first number. Well, no, she'd be the second number they retire. I think they would retire Kelly Stebbins first. They should retire Kelly Stebbins first. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel really conflicted. I really do. I liked it for what it was. I think if you approach it
exactly
in that frame,
and it's just so tough. Like, you know, I mean, it just happened to debut leading into literally a month to the day that women's hockey once again blew the fuck up. So, I mean, you know, and so for the nostalgia, I think it's really unprecedented. I mean, like I literally saw myself in this. You know, I saw me. I was like, that's my coat. I was at that game. There goes my sister. I was on the ice for that, you know, like, so for that, it's truly, you know, I bought it outright. Cause at first I was like, oh, I'll just rent it. And then I was like, even if I hate this, I'm going to want these clips, you know, because we just don't have enough from season 1, which, I mean, honestly, if she dropped a Kickstarter, if the director dropped a Kickstarter tomorrow and was like, yeah, you know, we'll give you more, I would be like, yes, please, like, serve it up to me on a platter. I want all of the raw footage.
Injected in my veins.
Honestly, like, there's so much that you could do. And yeah, you know, maybe I will write a book. Maybe I'll find a way to go back and do some of these interviews. I mean, I would love to hear what Fratty thinks after watching that. Anya too, obviously. You know, but women's hockey is just in such a weird place right now. We don't know what's coming next. And I think in a conversation I had with Reagan Carey, which he's hopeful for, and I hope she sticks around so that she can stick out her vision for this. But she does feel that the members of, she said the PHF, but of course the NWHL and the PHF, they deserve to be recognized for what they've done historically. And again, the narrative being swayed by just people that they take up a lot of ink, so to speak, in women's hockey. Hillary Knights can't tell that version. She was a founder of the league, but the sweat equity that she put into that league comparative to other people is drastically different.
Even on her own team, Dempsey. I mean, like,
exactly.
It's a very limited perspective, and I think that's a big part of why I saw that comment. I love it. I think that
my mom, I'm just going to read them for the replay or in audio, but my mom loved it because she knew all the players, said Madison, and also does as thoroughly know the history that followed in as much detail, and doesn't know, I guess. Yeah, and doesn't know the history that followed. Yeah, no, I get that completely.
It's a situation where, because you only focus on, I guess you would say, the most marketable players, you're getting kind of a snapshot in time of what the league was. You're not getting that full picture. And I think that's what a lot of mainstream media failed to do after the PWHPA formed, is that they focused on that storyline, they focused on that narrative, and they didn't even bother really to get a true narrative from, let's say, a Michaela Grant-Mentis, like you said, Jillian Dempsey, Madison Packer, people who've been there longer, but also people who, like you said, were kind of on the bubble when it comes to like their national team, and have kind of been looked down on. We've talked a lot about how Bucky just continuously got overlooked, but talking to those players who joined the league also at a different time, who maybe joined the league in season 2 or joined the league in season 5 or joined the league, last year when the salary cap was more than we've ever seen before. Getting those different perspectives gives a really, really full picture. And I think that in the way that you frame that, you can easily frame that in the time that it took for us to watch this documentary.
Yeah, and we have a comment up. I'm afraid we've seen the last days of players like Dempsey play, and that makes me sad. I mean, honestly, I was really trying to catch up with Dempsey this off season because the PHF was moving to a model where it was going to be harder for people who had full-time job commitments, and teaching is a pretty intensive full-time job commitment. It was going to be harder for people like that to continue on in the league with the influx of money and the expectations that come with that. So I already thought that it was going to be more difficult than ever before, if that's even, possible for a player like Jillian Dempsey. So I'd always been curious what the next year was going to look like for her. With this new league, who knows? We don't know when they're playing, like literally what time of day. Are they playing weekends only? Are they going to do week, And here's the thing. I often am very put out by, I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but there's a PHF. Like, fuck that. Why are you talking about the Super Bowl first if you really want, like, don't they say start with the hits? Like, start with what you want people to watch, right? Yep. That being said, I know people inevitably will say, well, I know the Buffalo Sabres are playing, but the Buttes have a game too. It's like, fuck that. Just talk about what you want to talk about, right? That being said, we are going into a league that wants to start in January 2024 that is very conscious of NHL and its proximity to the NHL and wanting to suckle on the teat of the NHL, or at least their purse strings. And now they're starting a league for the first time in the middle of an NHL season.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the first third of the NHL season, because the NHL season is forever. I mean, make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. You know what else is going to be happening? Yeah. You know what else is going to be happening? Because listen, women's hockey or college hockey, arguably, but definitely women's college hockey. If I had to guess now, okay, I will fact check this myself eventually if these facts or stats even exist. But one of the most difficult things as someone who covers women's sports is that the carryover, the carrying, the passing of the baton between women's winter sports and women's spring sports is extremely janky. I mean, there was a year where I finished covering the Isabel Cup, and the very next day, like not even a full 24 hours, I was traveling to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
This league is going to go up against NBA, NHL, NFL, NCAA hockey, men's and women's, NCAA basketball, men's and women's. And depending on what cities they're in, NCAA volleyball is super popular in the Midwest. I don't think they're going that far west, but I'm just saying. So, like, where
And I'd like to point out, not just NFL football, NFL playoff football is in January.
Girl,
so
see, I don't even know. I don't know the men's pigskin. You're right, because isn't the Super Bowl usually in February?
Super Bowl is usually like first weekend of February. Yep.
Girl, I was tired.
Yep.
I was tired.
So you're telling me that you are, unless they're banking on potentially getting in good with the NHL to the point where maybe they debut during All-Star Weekend. That is exactly what I was thinking, Madison. You freaking jumped into my head and pulled that out. Maybe the puck will drop All-Star Weekend. That's exactly what I was thinking. If they think that they're going to get in good with the NHL and be able to pull that off, I doubt it. But, you know, and the thing is, not only are you doing, sorry.
But who's gonna cover it?
Hell if I know.
Because if it's All-Star Weekend for the NHL is in Toronto this year, if they're going for so like NHL writers who are not the same as hockey writers, I just want to point that out, right? Because I've been a hockey writer for a while and I'm just recently dabbling into the NHL. Anyway, NHL hockey writers are going to be where? If they're traveling, at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, that's kind of a big deal. Like, meetings and shit happen at the NHL All-Star weekend. I mean, you know, I might start going to them because of our Writers Association, which honestly, who the F knows how that's going to work out. That's in a holding pattern as well.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing that I have to work out. Frank and I are trying to stay on it, but we don't even know who to contact. We don't even know who to contact.
That's exactly it. And like there was a plan in place. We were putting together a plan to bring to the PHF in terms of the freaking, you know, new policies, ideas for it, and now all of a sudden that just all goes out the window, which is amazing.
The PW as well, in fairness, but you know, whatever. But anyway, the point
whatever
is,
league that was going to be at.
Listen, I think in their minds that makes sense, but unless the puck is gonna drop and they give them more than just a little honky tonky, hoinky doinky exhibition, like if they allow them to play their inaugural game in the middle of men's NHL All-Star Weekend, then okay, maybe. But that's not gonna happen. In what world does that happen in Toronto 2024?
It doesn't.
They might put it on the agenda, but people plan a year in advance for these things. And if they're not telling media, listen, you know what? They might get the Associated Press. They'll get ESPN. Maybe they'll get these folks to come to these. But then what did we just see in that documentary? Like, people are like, oh gosh, it's so dead. Like, we had a sellout, and then what happened? You know, it happens with World Cups. It happens with Olympics. It happens, you know, with playoffs. I never watch certain men's sports that I watched growing up until the playoffs, if at all.
Yeah.
Because that's when everyone is talking about it and it's becoming a part of the lexicon. So I get that. You want to catch that lightning in a bottle. But what do we know about that? If you haven't established yourself as a part of the culture, or better yet, you haven't created a loyal culture of your own, you can catch as many shooting stars as you want, and you're going to crash and burn once they hit Earth because you haven't put in the work to establish your own community. And the PHF, by its mere existence, has created community. That's how all of us are here right now, right?
Exactly.
That's how all of us are here doing what we're doing in this exact moment because of a community that was created. And a lot of people have said this, but I think it bears repeating. And that's where you get You know, there's this whole concept. I mean, you know, 1,000 loyal fans or super fans. Like, there's actual like theory on how to build loyalty. And I don't think that women's hockey, certainly not in the last month and a half, has been following the best you know, the best practices when it comes to creating and sustaining loyalty as far as a fan base. Because you can play in as many malls as you want, but you still need us to buy tickets. You still need us to tune in and watch. And you know,
you need us to buy merch. You need us to talk about it. You need us to get people to the games. A lot of this started with grassroots effort. A lot of this started from grassroots effort, including the media space. You know, so I think that, you know, I think a big part of it too is that it's not the market that they necessarily want. It's not the audience that they necessarily want. Because I mean, if you think about it, the PHF was able to attract a very diverse fan base. It was able to attract a fan base of people, you know, again, I did a piece last month on Pride Nights and the way that women's hockey interacts with the LGBTQ plus community. And so many people said, you know, I felt way more comfortable watching a PHF game than I ever did watching an NHL game.
Yeah,
and
that's real.
That's,
I mean, and that's a lot of communities.
You know, it's, and I feel like a lot of that is going to fall by the wayside because, again, it's not, you know, it's not necessarily the one that they want. They want to curate a fan base that is akin to what the MNHL brings because they think that that's what's going to bring the money. And yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just, you know, again, we have to wait and see. I wish I was more confident, but you know, the one thing I've learned quickly, whether it's from real life personal experience or the history of women's hockey, is that women's hockey is extremely resilient. I don't know that women's hockey is as nimble as it should be or cooperative as it should be at times, but it's definitely resilient. And the one thing that I can confidently say is that the talent pool is at a premium from the time I've been watching.
Yep.
And I do think that is because of the opportunities to play beyond college that have existed in North America in the last 8 years. And the most consistent model of that was the NWHL PHF.
Yep, it was. You know, for better or worse. Again, I think that multiple things can be true. It can be true that the PHF still had a very, very long way to go at the point that it was at before the buyout. It's also true that at that point, they were succeeding in some form. And they did a lot to grow the game to the level it's at now. Before before the buyout, last season's hockey was some of the best hockey I remember watching in a very, very long time, especially those playoffs. The final was amazing. That was the best Isabel Cup final I think I've ever seen.
I mean, season 2 is maybe the closest.
Yeah.
3 was also dramatic, but yeah, as far as the hockey itself being just end to end pretty crisp, I mean, I think that wasn't even arguably, especially from Minnesota's perspective, I think maybe it was a little more of a clunky game on their side, but they somehow were hanging with the Toronto Six.
Yeah.
Like
it was a nail biter. I genuinely, by the time overtime rolled around, I genuinely did not know what to expect. Of course, you know,
I was
like, of course, you know, once you figured out that it was going to be 3-on-3 overtime, and again, the Toronto Six were the only team to be successful in that when they played it during the playoffs, and it's a possession game, and Toronto Six fell at possession. Once I figured that part out, I was like, yeah, I think the Toronto Six have this. But still, the Whitecaps were right there, and that was the team that everybody least expected.
Yep. What happens though? Like, I mean, first of all, I was gutted that because I was pulling double duty, but I couldn't believe that more stories weren't written about Teresa Vanishova after that game. That was a fantastic individual effort. She comes back on the forecheck on 3-on-3 overtime hockey, wins the puck back, and then beats Amanda Levier top shelf.
Unreal.
To be only the second ever player to win 3 Isabel Cups.
Yep.
And she won 2 of those with the other player, Jillian Dempsey.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. If I were in the league, I would have been writing the shit out of that. That's a fantastic story. And you know what happens is it becomes global. That's that's someone who you're talking about who can play in the World Championship, in the Olympics for years to come for a rising country.
Yeah, I was gonna say Czechia is unreal. They're gonna be in like 1 to 2 seasons.
Across the board. I'm talking boys, girls, men's, women's. Czechia is coming for everybody in hockey. And I love it.
Excited. Like next Olympics, watch out. Watch out. It's gonna be unreal. And you know what?
Milano Cortina, let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
But it's so exciting. And it's a testament to the parity of women's hockey and where it's gotten to. And I would argue, the parity in the league was so great, Madison says, and she's absolutely right. The parity in the league was amazing. And again, it also speaks to the parity that we're seeing grow globally, because you're seeing more European players who are able to completely take over a league. Look at what Fanny Gasparic did in freaking in the All-Star game.
The All-Star, I mean, all of Team World. Again, this hasn't aired yet because it was such a great interview, and then literally overnight became irrelevant. But I have a great conversation with Leah Lum, also for my own feels and for everyone else's. Felt like we needed a little separation from those interviews. I know I batched so many fucking interviews. I'm talking like it was at least 10 interviews that I batched, because the week that all this crap went down is the one time someone from my family came to visit me in Tulsa. So I batched.
Dude, I remember texting you.
Oh my God. I cannot. I was like, I cannot deal with it.
I understood it. I didn't want to deal with it. But anyway,
The point is, Leah Lum and I had a great conversation that I will be making available first for Patreon and then on Founding Four podcast. But we talked about that Team World game. We talked about her growing the game and being a part of Team China. Like, there's so many amazing stories, and these athletes love telling those stories. Like Leah, because I don't pay for Zoom, but so we got cut off, and she got my number because she did not have my number. She got my number from someone from the Toronto Six, messaged me and was like, loved that conversation. Let's keep chatting. Can't wait to see you throughout the season.
Oh man.
And I'm saying this because it was a great experience as a journalist and as a person, but also that's how much these players enjoy talking about what they do. They love what they do. And I just hate that we miss the mark too much. And even, I feel bad when we have limitations of what I can do for Black Rosie Media, or when I'm with larger publications and I have to fight so freaking hard just to get these interviews, So if I haven't said it enough, especially to this group we have here and yourself included, Angelica, thank you for believing in the work that we're doing. Thank you for consuming the work that we're doing, because a lot of times it just feels like it goes into the void. And you don't get as much people in real time following the work, but this is why it's so important, because we have this amazing documentary, and imagine what it could be if they spoke to people like Dan Rice, who was there alongside Kate Samini in season 1, and Mike Murphy, and then you and I come in later, but like between those names and maybe a cluster more that would include photographers
Michelle
and other
J.
people, there's a cluster of people who can give you the full complexity of this league.
Yeah. And that's what it deserves.
Exactly.
It's I think we worry too much about presenting a certain entity, a certain person, a certain league in a certain light. We worry so much about positive representation, and we don't realize that people respond, especially nowadays, people respond much more to somebody who is complex, to a league that is complex, to a league that has nuance, to a league that is trying its best but is somehow always kicking itself in its own shins. It's a situation where you can show multiple sides of the same coin, and we continuously don't.
Yeah,
and it's infantilizing.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. But I see this comment here. Too early to request watch parties? No, as a matter of fact, it is not. There are only a limited amount of NWHL games that are still archived on YouTube, but they are archived, and those are public. And so as long as they are public, we can definitely have some watch parties. And I think, how do I want to say this? Maybe just stay tuned to Patreon or read between the lines on Black Rosie Media, because I'm just very honored that as a member of the broadcast team, I have archives that I can keep for my reels of PHF games that I've done, especially those that were at Vista. And so I'm just so grateful that I have access to those full games. And I'll just leave it at that.
Amazing. We love that. Yeah, Madison said, Madison and Skylar are talking about Michelle J. Obviously, I mentioned her too. And Kate, I think that went to men's basketball. Madison says
Kate Freeze. Phoenix. Yeah. She works for Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury.
Yes.
But she got to shoot the final. So I got to work with Kate again at the final in Arizona. I'm so glad I was able to make it out there. I'm thankful that the league invited me. But, I was really working because I've been able to do some play-by-play, and it's looking like I'll be able to do some play-by-play for college hockey again, men's and women's in Hockey East. So stay tuned for that. But I really, the first final that I was ever supposed to work in the booth ended up getting canceled because of COVID and the N-double situation. And then when they rescheduled, they did not reassign that to me, which I was really pissed about. So I've never worked an Isabel Cup final as the analyst. I've done it rinkside. I was the rinkside reporter for the Buffalo and Riveters game. And ironically, which was fine, but I was assigned the Buttes bench. So, yeah, that was interesting. But I've never worked an Izzy Cup final as an analyst, and I really wanted to do play-by-play for the PHF. I have no idea what things are going to look like. I mean, it's an uphill climb to be a Black woman calling hockey games, or just a Black woman, a Latina covering hockey, period. So I know there are a lot of people that, depending on who gets the broadcast, will maybe make the call, but I'm still going to be working. I'm still going to be working to find my way back into a booth to call women's hockey games. And the first chance I'll get will be at the end of next month with the Amerigo Latam Cup. So I'll be one of the play-by-play voices again for that. And listen, when I tell you, let's just put it this way. I do not do that assignment for the money. There's a lot that in hockey that I don't do for the money, but definitely that. And I say that because I do wish that they would pay people more. And I do it, I have reps, so I'm not doing it the way that maybe like a college student might do it. But I think it's important because, first of all, it's just a lot of fun. Those teams are playing for pride, truly. Like, it's the name on the front, not the back. Like, they're living that in a very real way, that it's a thing that never has to be spoken. There's so much joy at those games. And I mean, that's the thing. We have to be able to bring that and that level of professionalism. That's what I hope to do, is bring that level of energy, but also professionalism to every hockey game that I call, every game period that I call. So I don't know what the future holds, but I'm excited. I'll get back to the booth one way or another next month. And yeah, we're going to do our best at Black Rosie Media and the Founding Four podcast to commemorate some of the best moments in PHF history. So I think this might be a fun exercise, Angelica, that we do for our podcasts. But maybe now that we've seen the documentary, what if we do our own like director's cut? Like, what would we put up on the big board? Like, what would be the storyboard of season 1 through 8? I think we should have fun with that.
I think that would be a lot of fun. I already have like at least 3 ideas that just popped into my head. So.
Okay, so here it goes. On the next episodes, the next handful of episodes of the Founding Four podcast, which we've been playing around with, I think we get more response and more engagement when we're on YouTube. And who knows what's happening to the app formerly known as Twitter. But we're going to figure out a way to have this conversation and maybe pull some other people in. But we're going to storyboard our documentary ideas for season 1 through 8. We'll start with season 1 and work our way all the way up to season 8. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so much fun, because I mean, I think about so much, just off the top of my head. Holy crap. I mean, the salary cuts, obviously, the Pagula era of the Buffalo Buttes, the branding and the deals with the Devils, the Isabel Cup handle story.
Yeah, exactly.
Harrison.
Yeah. Oh, so much. And, honestly, I think it's going to be a fun activity to do as well, because I realize, like, obviously, like most things, I'm like, wait, did that happen season 2 or season 3? Was that a season 1 thing or a season 4 thing? Oh gosh, again, season 4 for the Rivs. What a nightmare. But, yeah, I think we should do that. And then, so many questions on all that. Yeah, so many questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're talking about Riveters season 4 or all of the things.
I was not. Yeah. Season 4 I was not present for, but season 5 picked right back up. So
yeah. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do here on the Founding Four pod. And Angelica and I are gonna get back into our groove, and we're just gonna talk it through. I also do want us to go back and revisit, it almost, if you weren't paying attention, it was easy to miss, because I did miss it the first time around. But since our deep dive on the Harvard women's hockey program, they have released a statement about the investigation, but I don't know that they've actually released any conclusions, or which is very, very strange. Why pay for a third party and then not have? Anyway, the point is that they effectively said that they didn't see anything outside of the norm or that defied any policies, but that they are going to be making some changes to traditions. I mean, so is it that I'm just very curious, especially given the reports on the naked skate. That was so weird. Like, I just feel like that's weird on so many levels.
The focus on tradition is really, really intriguing to me, because it always feels like that's kind of a subtle way to imply that all of this investigating and all of this like push for change is interfering with some exalted memory or exalted like part and ritual of the history of the team, and nobody ever stops to think, why is that part of it? You know?
Yeah, just again, I mean, at minimum, I have so many questions as to why that was necessary at like any level of thinking. Why is that appropriate? Why is it necessary? Why is it tradition? Why? Brought to you by the letter W.
Yeah, we can we can talk about the whys of so many things to do with sports, but nobody ever seems to have an answer.
Well, in polite company, nothing that's said in polite company, aka publicly, but there, I mean, yeah, we
already know.
We know why. I mean, it has, and it's almost always rooted in the patriarchy. So,
yeah, there's,
I mean, like, because why? I just like, I literally, there's nothing that I can think of that is like so far from anything that I would ever want to do than a naked skate. Like, trick, what? In what world? Like, I'm
you said
not
what
trying
now?
to do that life on any level. Like, there's no part of me that's not sexy, that's not cute, that's not team building, that's not happening.
Nothing.
Like, I'm just trying to understand. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, one of many. The point is, Harvard has some work to do, and we're gonna, as promised, we're gonna follow up and keep up on that story. But once again, here in the sports landscape, we just know that nothing was done wrong, but at the same time that nothing was done wrong, there will also be sweeping changes, but not because anything was done wrong, but because we can see now that the traditions that we held so firmly to, because they create great culture and build Olympians, maybe they need to be altered, but they're not wrong. They're not wrong. But
we're doing this for you. We're doing this because you told us to. We're doing this for you because, of course, this generation is just so sensitive about tradition.
You know, because back in the old days, you could naked skate your way 5 miles to and from school and not even get a cold. Yeah, and not even get a cold, you know? So,
yeah.
Everyone just naked skated their way to class. That's what we do.
Mental health wasn't a thing. You know, we could call people fat and make them develop EDs, you know, and that was fine. Everything was fine.
Oh, what a mess.
So off these days.
What a mess. But anyway, so Harvard, I don't know what you got going on, but you got some splaining to do.
Lucy.
You got some splaining to
you
do.
Got some splaining to do. Oh my God. As we wrap up here, because we have been rambling, I know this isn't women's hockey related, but I did want to bring it up. I saw that the Phoenix Mercury released that Brittany Griner is taking some time away from the team for mental health reasons. And I just want to, you know, especially, you know, for me, for you as well, Erica, and, you know, on behalf of the Founding Four, we definitely, you know, send all of our love and all of our well wishes to BG. You know, this process is definitely not linear. It's not something that is easily traveled. You know, so, you know, she's doing the right thing. Really hope she takes all the time she needs to heal as best she can. So,
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm so grateful that she felt comfortable enough to share as much of herself as she has since getting back. And like you said, I just really hope that this is going to serve her best interests and her family's best interests, because that's truly, she owes us absolutely nothing at this point. And that's obviously my take because I said it, but you know, I'm glad that you said that. I was just thinking about that as we were wrapping as well. So, because sports is a real, we talked about it. Unfortunately, a lot of us in here, if not everyone, knows what it's like to, be without a parent. And there's all kinds of other things that happen in life. And we were talking in the chat that hockey was really a way, like me and my sister were able to just get a little bit of a break from a little bit of the heaviness. So we know that sport is an outlet. It's where people, it was in the documentary, where you feel strong and you can be aggressive and you can be assertive, especially as a girl, as a woman, as a queer person, as a Black person, and when sport isn't that anymore, for any myriad of reasons. And, it's not like that every day of every week of every year. But once that kind of leaves for you, or it becomes, the complexities of life become too heavy, that's a lot. It's a lot to take. So, that being said, we try to navigate in a way where we're being honest and upfront with what those complexities are for us when we are comfortable to share them, and we're not going to shy away from discussing them. So I'm really grateful that that we are going to wrap on that, because,
well, mental health is something, I think we all take really, really seriously,
it is.
and it's something that we're seeing more and more athletes be comfortable at it, especially athletes of color, especially Black female athletes. We're seeing many more of them step up and be honest about their mental health. We saw it with Simone Biles during the last Olympics. And I think
she's going to go, she's going to try for Paris.
It's incredibly important to make sure that we talk about this, and, talk about the fact that, it's not always easy, especially again for somebody like BG, who has been through a situation that I don't think any of us can truly and 100% ever relate to. The only thing that we can do is kind of, give her love and positive vibes, and hope that she is on her way to some kind of peace, because unfortunately, it is one of those things that I think is going to be very, very difficult to shove to the back burner. It's not something that you can really do, and I think also it's the most important thing for us to kind of show that women can feel and still be strong. Women can be emotional and still be strong. Black women can be vulnerable and still be strong. And I just, I think that that's so important. So
I love it. I love all of you. Angelica, my co-host with the absolute most, we appreciate y'all who joined us. And I say this on Locked on Kraken all the time, but hey, be kind to yourself. Let's be kind to each other. And, just out here doing the best that we can. But we're so grateful that you spent some time with us working through our technical difficulties, my technical difficulties on not being able to get this freaking link going.
Because my thing crashed like 3 times.
I was ready to lay on my super duper comfy couch, and the universe was like, you better go back to your desk.
Yes.
No, but we're grateful. Again, we are going to keep an eye out on some watch parties. We're definitely going to do that, and help us get to Nova Scotia.
So help us get to Nova Scotia.
We can celebrate with CJ and the Izzy Cup. So keep an eye out for more details there. But all right, Angelica, thank you for your time. We got Sky, Maddie, thank you so much. Who else was in here with us? Mike, thank you.
We love all of you.
Yeah, so many people joining us. We really appreciate y'all. Forrester came through. Hayden, thank you so much. And we'll catch you on the next Founding Four pod. Remember, we're going to do our storyboard. If we were writing a doc, season 1 through season 8 of the NWHL/PHF, what would we do? That's coming up in the next few episodes of Founding Four Pod. All right. Peace out, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.